right, everybody, how you doing? Welcome to Universal Dialect. I'm with a very special guest, really good friend of mine. You know what I mean? He initially interviewed me last year for experiences that I've had, and it was very cathartic to me, and I appreciate him doing that. He has his own show called The Confessionals, amongst other projects, which we'll get into. Welcome, Tony Merkel of The Confessionals and newly Merkel Media. How you doing, my man?
Yeah. Hey, man, I'm doing good. Newly public Merkel Media. I had Merkel Media for, I think, 2 years now, and since 2019, I think. And I just started talking about it more publicly. But yeah, it's been a wild ride, brother.
Yeah, you were telling us about it, but it didn't officially happen until recently, until this year, I believe, correct?
Yeah, well, no, it's like I've been in operation for a while. Just when I started Merkel Media, it was only for me producing other people's podcasts. And so I would reach out to like high profile individuals and say, hey, you got a great message. You need a podcast. That's where I can help you. And we partner together and do that. And so I started a company doing that stuff. And then I recently have been transitioning into also doing documentaries. So now I'm plugging that in underneath Merkel Media. So now Merkel Media is turning into, more of an actual media company where I do a lot of different things with it. And since I'm now doing a bunch of different things, I'm talking about the company more. But originally the idea was just to keep it on the DL, man. Like I was like, I don't want people knowing about it. I just want to be left alone, where I just wanted to, the legalities. Merkel Media was an LLC and all that stuff. But yeah, it's kind of transitioning right now. I'm trying to, I guess, build some kind of empire. We'll see what happens.
Well, I mean, it starts somewhere, right? You got to start somewhere. So we'll see what happens in the future. But Tony, listen, talk to me about your origins, because people that know you have this podcast called The Confessionals. You have individuals that contact you to tell you that they have experiences, and then you pick and choose, I guess, whatever piques your interest, and then you'll call them up like you did with me, and then have a conversation, and then an interview will ensue. So when did this all start? Well, tell me the origin, first, of Tony Merkel. Where were you born, raised? Don't spare any details, and how you got into this field, if you don't mind.
Yeah, so I mean, I think it was early 1985. My mom had sex, and
that's cool. That's a year before the Mets won the World Series. I remember. Yeah. So actually, a year before. Yeah. Sorry. Go ahead.
So yeah, I mean, I was born in Allentown, Pennsylvania, and when I was about 5 years old, my parents moved from Allentown to Kutztown, PA, which is a very rural area. Kutztown itself is a college town, but on the outside, it's just a bunch of farm fields, Pennsylvania Dutch. And I lived on the outside in a big trailer park. If you want, everybody's heard the phrase trailer trash. That was me. Like I was like the picture perfect image of trailer trash kid, like, I mean, it was the life, and, I spent about 10 to 12 years. I can never remember, but it's like 10 to 12 years of my childhood in this trailer park. And there was a lot of social struggles living in the trailer park. I was not the most popular kid. The kid that I was the kid that kids picked on, And so it was it put me in a position where you take friends when you got them, and you learn how to live life without them, And that's something that set me up for the rest of my life, and not in a great way either. Like I never socially developed in the sense of having friends. I don't have a ton of friends. I have a lot of acquaintances. A lot of people know who I am, but I don't have a ton of friends. And it's more my fault because I don't know how to have friendships with people long term. Like people just kind of filter in and out of my life. And that all stems from my childhood. So with that, we lived in a big trailer park between two even larger cornfields and woods. And sometimes me and other kids would be talking about, Bigfoot and these werewolves and stuff like that. And what caught our interest was the Loch Ness Monster. And so we would talk about that and how we're going to, one day go find it and kill it and, prove that it's real. Then, at times I'd find myself in the woods by myself, and I'd be walking through the woods and I'd feel that sense that something's looking at me. But I don't know. I don't know if something was or not, but I had that sense. And the idea of Bigfoot was just something that was always in the back of my mind growing up as a kid. As I got older, changed towns. We went to even more of a redneck town, but they were nicer to me there, so that was nice. My high school years were pretty peaceful, and I went through high school, got into sports and stuff like that. Really got out of what I do now, but I got married young. So at 21, I got married, and I found myself living a married life when all my friends were partying and having fun and going out and doing crazy stuff. I was going to work and enjoying my time with my wife and staying in, and but probably by the time I was 24, 25, I was getting bored, and I just needed something else. And so around that time, I started watching that TV show that was on, I think, History Channel called Monster Quest.
Yeah, it's a good show.
Yeah, it just kind of like I started watching it, and it just reminded me of all these fascinations I had as a kid, and I just slowly started getting into it. Like I would bring it up. I was coaching college basketball at the time, and I would bring it up to the players or the fellow coaches, and bring up these topics, and they're like, "You're crazy, it's stupid. I can't believe you believe that." I'm like, "Well, I don't know if I believe it." And then it transitions to like, "Yeah, I think it's real." I mean, and the conversation ensues from there. But that was kind of like the genesis of my interest in these paranormal, cryptid, conspiratorial type topics as an adult. And then I started driving truck again, and I just started listening to different podcasts while I'm driving, and the fascination grew from there. I had started a Facebook group about Bigfoot, and just started dabbling in the industry, man. And turns out I started a podcast in 2017, and pretty quickly I started getting emails from people of their experiences, and it just kind of snowballed from there. And here we are 5 years later, and doing this full time and having a blast. So yeah.
So you say you were a truck driver. Did you get that from your dad? Because I believe your dad was a truck driver as well. So was that something he passed down to you, kind of? Or?
He didn't want to. But so I didn't graduate college, and I was in debt. I didn't know what to do with my life. I didn't have any particular skills or interests outside of basketball, which wasn't paying the bills. And so I was like 21, and I got my CDL, and I started driving, and I would go in and out of driving throughout my 20s until I was like, I think I was like 28 when I called my dad up, and I was like, "Dad, I need to get back into driving, and I need to get into a serious company that is going to be a landing spot for me." And I asked him to recommend me to the company he works for, and he did, and I got in, and I spent about 8 years there driving truck, and it was really good in the sense that it provided an environment for me to progress financially in my life for the first time, and also gave me the opportunity to be completely alone most of my day, where I got a chance to just think and plan and pull at the strings of ideas and kind of see what they become, and then execute on those ideas. So I owe a lot to driving truck in the sense of where I'm at now, because I don't think a lot of people can work it. I don't think a lot of people will get the opportunity to work in an environment where they're not distracted from their thoughts all the time. And it really allowed somebody like me to really take my thoughts, dream, and also I'm the kind of person that I execute. So like my wife is not like me. So my wife, she'll have an idea and she'll want to sit on it for about a year, 2, maybe 10. And it's just like, she's like, "This is a good idea, but I'm scared. I don't want to make a decision." And I'm the kind of person, I just make decisions rapid fire. And I just operate in the philosophy that, in the 10 years that it takes my wife to make one decision, I'll make 50 decisions, and I'll fail on 45 of them, but I'll hit on 5 of them, and I'm still ahead of my wife. You know what I mean?
Right. Because I mean, like they say with the lotto, you can't win if you don't play. So
exactly.
You gotta play. That's the only way you win.
I just I took all these ideas I had and I executed on them. So before I was podcasting, I'm an entrepreneur by spirit. I'm just an entrepreneur, and I've owned several different companies, failed at all of them, but before I started the podcast, about a year before I started the podcast, I owned a car repair company, driving truck. I would drive during the day, and then I'd have appointments at night. And what I would do is, instead of having a garage, I would go to my customer's home and work on their car there. Right. And the company was called Mars, which stood for Mobile Auto Repair Services. And it was me going to the customer. So in the Philly area, especially the county I live in, there's a lot of rich people in this county. A lot of them work in the high rises in Philadelphia that they live out here. And so there's no shortage of people that are willing to spend money. And I was offering convenience. So you spend your whole week in traffic going back and forth from Philly, stressful job. All you want to do is sit at home on a Saturday afternoon and watch college football. So why don't you just let me do the oil change and rotations of your tires in your driveway, so you don't have to worry about sitting in a car garage, wasting your Saturday in some waiting room while they take their good old time working on your car. And so, yeah, so I did that, and it was going really well, but it went too well where I couldn't keep up with the appointments. And it just kind of, I'd still, to be honest with you, I still do it today if I had the time, because it was a good idea. But that's when when I shut that down, I was in the mode of, I was like basically defeat. So I told my wife, I was like, okay, I'm done. You suffered enough through all my entrepreneurial endeavors.
Hold up, Tony. That wasn't really a defeat at your expense. It was more because it got out of hand.
Right.
You didn't cover everything. If you were able to control it, you would still kind of be doing it successful. It was just nothing that you did wrong. It was just, it blew up, and you only have two hands. You know what I mean? There's only one of you, you know? So
like and that's the way I view it too. I told my wife, I said, I'm done. I'm just going to drive truck for a living. Cause she's not like me with this stuff. So every time I would do something like this, she was like, her nerves were like, she's like anxious, like, are we going to get sued? Are you going to drop somebody's car? All that stuff. Right. And so I just told her, I say, okay, I'm going to settle into truck driving. And that's that. I'll just drive truck. I like driving truck. I really, to this day, I love driving truck. I don't like the BS in the industry. I don't like the BS that you have to deal with the dispatchers and the clients and the customers and all that stuff. But the act of driving a tractor trailer, so much fun. I love it. Right. But then podcasting came across the desk, and I looked at her. I remember, I'll never forget. I looked at her in the third bedroom in our house, which was the office, and which turned into my first studio.
Correct.
I'm sitting at this little tiny desk with my computer in front of me. She's standing in the doorway, and I'm informing her that I'm going to do this podcast thing and see what happens. And at the time, so I don't do things just because. Like I don't do hobbies. My hobby is building businesses. That's what I like doing. And so going into this, my wife was a stay-at-home wife. We were planning on having kids, and she wanted to be a stay-at-home mom. So my truck driving income was all we had, and I could see the writing on the wall that wasn't going to be enough. So I needed to do something. Correct. And so I'm sitting and with truck drivers, it's really hard to get a part-time job because you never know when you're going to be done in the evening. So it's not like I could say, yeah, I'll be here at 6 this evening to work for you. Like, I don't know. And most of the time, it's anywhere between 6 to 9 o'clock at night, you're done. Right. So the idea of doing a part-time job is really off the table. So I remember sitting at the desk, and I'm looking at her, and we're talking about all this stuff, and the podcast came across the idea, and I looked at her and I was like, listen, I'm going to try this podcast thing. And because we need to do something for income. And I said, if it doesn't work out, I promise you, I'm done. I will never do anything entrepreneurial again. I'll just stick to truck driving. That's that. We'll figure it out. But if this doesn't work, I'm done stressing you out with entrepreneur stuff. And I'd say probably about 6 months in, we got enough momentum going. Now, that was in January. We launched our first episode of 2017. And I'd say about 6 months in, she's now pregnant, and we had our first kid that December. But about 6 months in, she kind of took over my emails, my social media, because things were growing. And and all of a sudden she's like, okay, if this is working, let me get on board and help him with this. And so from very early on, she hopped on board and helped me in the process. And the show would not be what it is without her, because I hate doing emails. And I'm the kind of person, as motivated as I am as an entrepreneur, if I don't want to do something, I am not going to do it. And so, and that's why I was so bad at school. So like, it was just, and she's really good at that stuff, administrative stuff. And so she took over that stuff for me. But if it was up to me and only me, I mean, I would be missing a lot of possible interviews. I'd probably miss some weeks of releasing a show because it's just disorganized, you know?
Right.
And so she really saved the show in the early days because she came along and she started looking through the emails and she's like, do you realize you're missing a lot of potential interviews because you're missing these emails? I'm like, oh, really? What do you mean? And she's like, look at this list. I'm just like, oh, how about that? So yeah, she started doing social media on a consistent basis, and we developed a little bit of a formula. It's not perfect. We're always looking to improve things where we can. But in general, her and I have done a pretty good job of growing the show and what we do into what it is now. And we were just brainstorming this morning before we left to go to see my grandmother today. And on the way up, her and I were brainstorming about some things of the future of Merkel Media and some different things we could do with it that we weren't necessarily planning on. So she's very much involved, and I like giving her props when I can, because a lot of times, you know, I'm the face of everything. My face is the logo. People, you know, they see me, they associate me with the show. But my wife, without her, many people wouldn't even have heard the show, because she's just on the ball behind the scenes.
That's awesome, man. I mean, what could you couldn't ask for anything better, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But the fact that you involved her and she was able to be a bridge towards other things is kind of what you needed for that last business, but you didn't have it, you know?
Yeah.
Do you remember your first episode and who you interviewed and what that was like when you were doing it and after you were done with it, like that feeling?
Yeah. So I think his name was Todd, if I remember correctly. And he had 2 Bigfoot encounters in Western Pennsylvania. And he was in my Bigfoot Facebook group, and I was talking to him about his experience, not for the show, just in general. And when I had this idea for the show and stuff, I was like, oh, I'm going to get him on for the first episode. And he's a farmer, and I don't remember all the details, but I do remember he had 2 experiences. I think the first one, if I remember correctly, he was either hunting or maybe not, but he remembers seeing a female running across like a field, like a tree line or something like that.
Right.
And then the second one, I don't remember the details, but the Bigfoot was like swaying and doing the classic Bigfoot motions and stuff. But that was the first episode. I think that interview, that conversation was probably like 30 minutes or something, because I remember, you know, you start out with the podcast, you don't know exactly what it's going to sound like. You don't know exactly the direction. You have a general idea. At least for me,
Right.
I get an overall idea of something, and then I piece it together on how to get there. And so that's kind of like what you hear with the show in the beginning. You're like, I get the sense of what we're doing here, but from week to week, it started sounding different because I was just piecing it together. But my wife did a monologue or something like that for me in the beginning, where she kind of like read a story about Bigfoot. I think we spent about 15, 20 minutes doing that. And then we did the interview, and we wound up with like a 55-minute show. So like the interview wasn't very long. And it's because I didn't know how to do interviews. You know, I was like, I don't know, like, what do I have to ask questions? What questions to ask? All that stuff. And over time, I started developing a new strategy, I guess, to it, where I realized I didn't like my show. I was like, I don't like doing it this way. I don't like trying to frantically write down on a notepad questions as they're talking to ask them and try to make good questions and engaging questions. It's just not me.
Right.
I'm a conversationalist. I just talk to people. Sometimes I'm not going to ask the question that everybody is obviously thinking, because I didn't think about it, and I'm just enjoying the conversation with somebody. And so I just stopped worrying about that stuff, and I just started having conversations with people. I rarely take notes anymore unless they say something. I'm like, oh crap, that reminds me of this, or makes me really wonder about this. Let me write just like a word or two down so I can just bring it up in conversation, kind of thing. But I just it's changed so much over the years on how I go about it. And I remember I was driving my tractor trailer thinking about the podcast, and I realized that I wanted to be the Joe Rogan of paranormal podcasts. That's what I wanted. I was like, I like Joe Rogan a lot. I like how he does things, and I want to do that with paranormal podcasting. And that was my goal. So we're not perfect, and we're trying to make things better. It would be great if I could have everybody in studio with me. That is a goal one day, possibly to arrange. Obviously, we need to grow a lot more financially to be able to do that and pull that off. But when you have somebody in studio with you, it just is better. The energy is better. I've had it, and it's different. And so most of my interviews are done through Zoom or something like that.
Right.
But the goal one day is to be able to have an office space where I have a business address, and people who want to be on the show and I want to have them on the show, I pay for their plane ticket. They fly out, and we sit down and we make a day of it. We would take them out to lunch and talk and hang out, and then we do a show together. And when you have somebody in person, all of a sudden, what you usually do in an hour takes 3 hours because the energy is different. You know,
the dynamic is different. Yes.
Yeah, and that's why Joe Rogan's shows are 2-3 hours long.
Right.
You know, if he was doing it on Zoom, they'd be generally shorter because the energy is just different. You know,
Right.
so I just I got a lot of goals and visions of what where we're moving and stuff. Will it happen? I don't know, and I'm fine with it.
It will.
Well, here's the thing. Here's my mindset, man. Like, I don't care what the end result is. I only care if I tried. You know, I mean, I want it to happen. I desperately want it to happen. I'm about to move to Tennessee and into the Knoxville area. And that's as far as I can go because my wife tells me I tell people too much information about my life. So
I understand, bro. You gotta take your family.
Yeah, I'll be in the Knoxville area. But my goal is, when I'm down there, is to really build up my media company and make it so attractive to other podcasters, content creators, YouTubers. I want what I'm doing to be so attractive that other people move to the Knoxville area just to be around what I'm doing. I want to turn Knoxville into what LA was for Joe Rogan, where all his friends were there. They'd swing through the studio, they talk, they hang out. It was just like you got to be a fly on the wall of these awesome guys you're fans of. And I think that'd be amazing if we had the conspiratorial, paranormal type community all kind of together in a similar, very general area within an hour's range. And we just all, it's like, you know, Chris, you want to come on over on Tuesday and record a show? Yeah, I'm there. Bet. Cool. Let's do it. You know, like I just like it's not feasible for in this stage right now. There are people listening right now. They're like that. How the heck can you even how can that happen? Because all those people have to make a decision financially to make that move and all that stuff. Right. It seems so overwhelmingly unfeasible. It doesn't seem feasible right now that could be possible. But like I said, I get these dreams, these visions, and I figure out how to, it's like you see a rooftop and you're like, I got to get there. And then you start figuring out the pieces on how to build the ladder to get up there. And that's just kind of how I always am with all my ideas. And with this one, like I just have this vision that there are people that are going to be just so attracted to what I'm doing. They're going to move their families from Indiana to Knoxville just to be around what I'm doing, because they're like, if we go there, it's going to be beneficial for everybody. It's like that idea. If you build it, they will come, you know?
Right. Yeah.
And so I just want to try and do it. I have the documentaries I'm doing. My team of guys there is my brother, Joel from Van Tesla, and I got Ward and Christian. That's my team. I told them several times. I just told them again this week. My goal is to make enough money with the documentaries that they can be full-time like I am full-time podcasting, and they all move to Tennessee and we do this big. You know, I think one day, I'm going to start out with a single room office more than likely where I'm leasing, and One day I want to have a commercial building where we have many studios. We have video effects studios. We have video shooting studios, video interview studios set up like a newsroom, doing tons of different stuff, building culture, building ideas, and renting out the studios to the public. That, you know, this kid in Knoxville, he's 15 years old, huge fan of all these podcasters. He wants to start a podcast, and, you know, for $50 a month, you get access to the studio 4 times a month or something like that. I just threw that number out. It seems awfully cheap to me, to be honest.
It's something. I get what you're saying.
Like, I just want to give back to the community. I want to give back to not just the community of podcasters, but the community I find myself in. I want to encourage people from all ages of life. I just want to be a culture builder. I want to build culture. And I think that, if not me, then who? Why not me? Like, why not? If like I said, if it doesn't happen, I'm fine with that. What I'm not fine with is when I'm 70 years old, putting my head down at night and saying, man, I wonder if 30 years ago, if I would have tried that, I wonder what would ever happen with that. You know, like that would eat me alive, man. Like that would take like 10 years off my life. It would. So I just got to try and see what happens. I'm never going to make a decision that puts my family at risk as far as financially goes. But I'm going to really, really, really try hard to build something amazing. And I don't know how we got on this, but there you go.
No, it's cool. I mean,
hand it back over to you.
No, it's about you. When I decided to do this, I based this off of watching how you handle things, watching how other podcasters handle things, and I've come up with my own rules. And one of the rules is not to make the show about myself, because I don't think anybody cares about this. They care about the guest. So it's about you, man. So you just keep talking and saying whatever you want. Trust me, man. And I don't think anything's impossible, because, as you know, Rogan, as you were saying, Rogan was in LA. He had all his friends there. He's in Texas now. And what is he trying to do? Get all of his friends to Texas. Also, the part where you said you would like to make the people in your circle full time. You know Sam Tripoli. He started Tinfoil Hat. He's now at a point where his co-host XG and I think it's the other guy that does the computer stuff, Johnny, are full time now because he helped make that happen. So it's possible, you know. It's not that it's impossible. The worst part, like you said, is not even trying. That's the worst part, because, you know, like I said, you don't play, you don't win. You're not gonna know if you're gonna win if you don't play.
I was texting with Sam last week, and I told so I don't know if Joe's trying to get Sam to move to Texas, but I'm trying to get Sam to move to Tennessee. So like I've been texting Sam and like, hey man, I just bought a house in Tennessee. It's beautiful down there. You got to come through. Like I'm telling him, like we can build some crazy stuff, man. Right. Like it's time to bail on LA and build what you were already planning on building in a friendlier area for you. Right. And so I got a couple heavy hitter podcasts that I think they're probably way bigger than my show, that I'm trying to recruit to Tennessee. And I figure if I can get that solid core, everybody else comes. Everybody.
I know what you're saying. It just opens
But there's no way. There's no way that Sam's going to pick me over Rogan. If he did, then I'm a better salesman than I thought.
Well, I don't even really think it's that. I think it's more of like, Sam's a really smart guy. He's going to do what's best for him and his 2 kids, you know? If that means Tennessee, he's going to go to Tennessee. Rogan would understand it. And Rogan might have even jumped too. Who knows? You know?
I mean, I've been trying to get Rogan's number for years now. You know, all my Google searches are coming up short. But if I can ever get a hold of Rogan, hey, buddy, come on up to Tennessee. You know, like, you want to be more centralized. You don't want to be on the border, because they're sending away the border patrol over to other countries to help defend those borders, making us a little weaker. You don't want to be down there. Right. Come on up to the central United States, where you got the Rocky Mountains on one side, the Smoky Mountains on the other. You got freedom-loving people, plenty of space. You know, you got Nashville, Memphis, music cities, the spots. Like, there's plenty of stuff, buddy. Come on up. And he's going to say, after all that, he's gonna say, who are you?
Yeah. He's gonna say, Jamie, Google this guy.
Yeah. He's gonna say, where's my security?
All right, my brother. So listen, so initially start the confessionals, right? Did you try to tackle one subject? Let's say like you had your favorite subject and you try to tackle that, or did you try to tackle everything? Because, and the reason why I'm asking that is because when people talk about, let's say, cryptozoology, and you and I had this conversation, cryptozoology, ghosts and spirits, you know, angels and demons, you know, UFOs, all that, they talk about it like they're separate. And I don't believe they're separate. I believe they're all under the umbrella of the paranormal. So did you try to tackle specific things, or did you like, oh, I'm just going to take everything on?
Yeah, right away, I was planning on taking everything on. I knew that in the beginning, I probably would have more Bigfoot content than anything because of my background. But I don't think it was necessarily the case, but for sure, over the last 400 and some odd episodes that I've done, we've gotten less and less of Bigfoot content because I do so much of other stuff that I don't know if people just don't want to talk to me about Bigfoot, or, you know, they're Sasquatch Chronicles, you know, it's like, I'll just go over to the West, you know, but in the beginning, I right away, I'm going to do everything. I didn't know much about everything. My opinions about everything have changed over the years. I just knew that I was going to do everything. Paranormal, hauntings, abductions, Bigfoot, Dogman, conspiracies, whatever. I've gotten away from the conspiracies just because I got to be able to feed my family still. So I'm trying not to get canceled, you know?
I understand.
I'm planning on a show right now where I bring on somebody and we have a good conversation about survival in a dystopic kind of society. Let's just say EMP attack happens. What do we do, kind of thing? And just having an open, honest conversation and see where it goes. I don't think that will get me canceled, you know, but like if I go deep on some things like I've done in the past, it can happen. And so you gotta be smart about how you do things. But I definitely was planning on doing everything. Now, when I first started the show, I would get emails from people saying, I don't know if this is what you're looking for, but I had a haunting experience. And because people were like, oh, well, he's probably just wanting Bigfoot stuff. I'm like, no, give me everything. And that's why I just named it a very general name of the show. I wish I would have named it something a little bit more obviously paranormal, in the sense that like the Confessionals, like they're like, what is he, a priest? Is he like, what are we talking about? You know what I mean? Like, but the idea behind it was that people are coming on the show to confess what they've been through, what they experienced, and the idea that I'm sitting on the other side of a screen and listening to your story. I'm not passing judgment on you. I'm just taking that story and letting you share it like you would to a priest, you know? And so I called it the Confessionals, but I think if I had more of an obviously paranormal type name, catchy, but like it's not hard to guess, I wonder if my show would be even bigger, because I think there's a lot of people that would like my show that pass over because they have no idea what it is, you know?
Think of changing it?
I've thought about it, but I'm so far into it now. If I change it might be a problem for people who are casual listeners and they're like, where'd the Confessionals go? You know, it's like, you know, I could change it. It's not like the RSS feed would change or anything. So people that are subscribed for the Confessionals, they would just see a new logo, new name kind of thing. But there are certain things that you really got to weigh carefully, you know, and that would be one of them, because you spend 5 years building up a strong following on the name, the logo, even the show intro. I would like to change the show intro because I like change. So I like, you know, ride it out for a while. When I get tired of it, we do another one. But I know if I change the show intro, there will be some serious backlash. And not that I care in that sense, but I think this is selfish thinking for me, but it's just facts. I will get so annoyed by all the emails that I'll be getting for 6 months straight saying, your show used to be good until you changed your intro.
Dude, can I tell you something? You have your intro, and then right before you start talking, you play like this music. Okay? There's the one where you go, yup, right? That one intro. I love that. But you changed that at one point. I'm not gonna lie, I hate it.
I know. But I got tired of it.
You changed it back though. I appreciate that.
I just move it back and forth in the rotation. I'm starting to, you know, just kind of put it back and forth because I got tired of the yup. I got tired of the instrumental. But everybody likes the yup, and so I'm like,
I love the yup, dude.
Yeah, I just like, I got tired of the instrumental, and the instrumental I started using, I was like, oh yeah, I like that. And I'm just like, I'm listening to it. I'm like, yeah. I was like, oh, I like that. And so I was like, okay, we're gonna swap the yup for a yeah. And and I like it. And that's the thing. Like I built the show on this idea that like I'm not gonna make things for other people. I'm gonna make it for myself. If I like it, it goes. If I don't like it, it doesn't go. And so, you know, that's the way it is. But I do like the yup, and I think what I need to do is just get a new instrumental and put the yup in. I think that's what it is. But it was just literally like I didn't have an idea to change the yup. I was changing the instrumental, but I found that instrumental off one of those sites where you can buy instrumentals and stuff. And I'm just sitting, I'm like, oh yeah, I like this. I was like this. I was like, yeah. I was like, oh. I was like, we're changing the yup too. We're changing the yup too. All right. and my wife didn't like the idea, and I was like, I'm doing it anyways.
Yeah, she didn't like it, that's why.
And usually when she says don't do something and I do it anyways, she was right, you know? So just recently she told me, she's like, you need to get off Twitter. And I was like, enough said. So I got off Twitter. I said goodbye to everybody. I was like, I need to get off Twitter for a while because my mind's going down a dark dystopian mindset and it's not healthy, you know? So I said at the end of it, I said, my wife told me also I need to get off Twitter. So peace, you know?
Yeah, bro. I understand. Yeah. I never listened to my wife. So I've been married 26 years and, you know, I never listened to my wife, but she's right all the time.
Always.
So you were talking about like your first episode and whatnot, and then it eventually, the show was going really well. You jumped into like this Hammer Lane Legends. What started that? Like, what made you want to do something along like on that path, go down that path?
It was all a dream, you know. Like
I used to read Word Up magazine.
I mean, like I was driving my truck, daydreaming, and this was before Merkel Media existed. I knew I wanted to have more shows because I was like, I don't want to confine myself to just being the paranormal guy. And I was like, what else could I do? What else could I do? What else could I do? And I'm like, well, I drive truck. I could do a podcast about driving truck. And I was like, that's boring. I don't want to do that. And it just hit me. I was like, just basically do what you do already with truck driving. And so start a show where truckers come on and share their crazy, wild experiences from the road. And you know, and when I first started talking about Hammer Lane Legends publicly, people were like, why are you doing another paranormal show about trucks? I'm like, I didn't, where did you see that I said it was a paranormal show? That's the thing that like, as an individual, you especially if you feel like you have more to offer the world, whether it's podcasting or at your job, if you feel you have more to offer the world, if you want to know what it feels like to be in hell, have the world confine you into a box that says you are this. And it's like, right. No, I'm more than that, you know?
And you can't get out of it. They tell you, you're stuck.
And so Hammer Lane Legends was my first step of branching out and doing something different. And so we started that show, and now, I mean, I'm looking at doing. I have so many ideas for podcasts. I would like to just do a general conversation show, kind of like Rogan. I do have another paranormal podcast I got to put together. It's all based off of one story. So, like, if you're familiar with the Hellier crew.
I was going to talk to you about that actually.
Yeah, so like there's Hellier, there's a podcast called Pennyroyal. They kind of focus on a specific storyline, and they tease it out. And I have a story like that came across my desk, and it's, in my opinion, one of the most groundbreaking paranormal stories one will ever hear. It will force you to consider what is real, what are the possibilities, and how not are you wrong, but how much are you wrong about the paranormal?
And what's the timetable?
20 to 30.
Oh, wow.
I mean,
really?
No. I'm just saying that's no. I mean, the timetable is Tony's going to move to Tennessee in April. Once I get settled in there, we'll start figuring it out. You know? I got there's the initial interview I did for the Confessionals that launched me on this. And this guy is a very crucial part to this whole thing, but he's not the only part of the story. There are other characters that he talked about that I wound up looking up and finding. And one of them verified his stories. And the fact that she verified the stories is like the way it all came together. Like there is no way that this is false.
Right. What episode? So that in case people listen to
it hasn't aired.
It hasn't aired. Okay, so it's
no, because the initial interview is going to be the first episode of the new episode.
I got you.
And or the new show. So, but like the information I've gathered from him as the first interview, and then this other person,
yes.
There is no way that this is false. It can your perception and how you view it could be different than what they view it as, or even I view it as. But there's no way that what they're telling me is false because of timelines. It's literally impossible for these two people to conspire to trick Tony Merkel from the Confessionals and let's come up with a story, because there are things that have there are physical things that you can date back 5, 6, 7 years before my podcast existed that prove that what they're talking about happened. And I'm telling you, man, and there are parts of this experience, maybe ongoing experiences that these people are having that relate to other people and their experiences that have been on my show. And I think that I know I'm talking code. People are just going to
what I think you're saying is you got specifically at the moment 2 people that are saying the same things. They're saying things that obviously are not lies, because you know where to identify whether it's a lie or not, because there's timetables that make connections. But then also you've had interviews with people in the past that may not know these people, but their stories line up. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. So there's a lot of characters. I found characters that I believe are involved in this that at least have not responded to me reaching out to talk to them all over the world. And there are characters that I have found that I know were involved, but I can't reach out to them until I have exhausted other resources, because if I reach out to certain people too soon, it will scare the other resources away. And so I have to do things in certain orders. I'm also playing with fire because there is at least one of these individuals that's extremely dangerous. And if I pursue him and he just decides he doesn't like me, it could be very bad. Like a supernaturally dangerous person. Let's just put it that way. This is not I'm not talking about, he's not Rambo. He's scarier than Rambo. Like he's
got powers.
big, right. In the words of Donald Trump, bigly powers, and so I got to do things in the right order. And so, that's why it has got put on the back burner because of this move. Once we get this move though done, I think that has to be the new podcast that I start, because it's already on the table. And we also might be able to do a documentary on it as well with Legion of Legends. And so if we could launch a documentary, kind of like an hour-long documentary telling the story summarized and then go into greater detail through episodes, I think that might be the way to do it.
Wow, that's crazy. Damn. I was going to ask a question, but I kind of want to stay on this. But again, I know that it's sensitive and you can't say certain things. So let's get off of that.
Yeah, so let me just say this. The reason why it's sensitive is because I want the world to know the details. I want the world to know what's going on here. It's sensitive because I can't let anybody know this information, and I feel selfish in doing that in a sense, but it's because if I start releasing information before it is ready and time to come out, you as a listener, the listeners will have no other choice but to look into it for themselves. It's going to be so mind-blowing. And I believe, maybe it's going to be a dud. Nobody's going to like it, right? But I believe that the listeners are going to start looking into it themselves. And when they do that, they could scare away people that I need still. And so I need to build it first. Right. And then once it's ready, I can present it to the world and be like, okay, guys, go at it. Have fun. Right. And tell me what you find, Good luck. Yeah, good luck. If you come across a guy with red horns, stay away.
Yeah, I don't want to deal with the bigly guy. No, I don't want to deal with So listen, so back to Hammer Lane Legends. So how long have you been doing Hammer Lane Legends for?
Since I think March of 2020, I think.
Okay. And so you've talked to probably a lot of truckers. What has been the craziest story that you've heard, or a couple, if you can go into that?
So, all right. So the second episode that we did, we had a guy, Sam, on, and he was actually a contractor for the United States military as a driver. So he wasn't in the military. The military, apparently, I didn't know this, but they contract drivers to go into Iraq, Afghanistan, and drive the trucks and stuff. But they're not in the military.
The military contracts a lot of people. Trust me. I told you about a contractor.
Yeah. So he came on to tell his different just experiences of, having his truck shot at, blown up, things like that, and he's doing all this as a contractor, like I think technically he wasn't even supposed to be carrying a gun, but the one thing that he shared was they were driving in a hostile area, and he was coming up behind, so he was behind the caravan, and he passes a road that he knows we were all supposed to turn down. And because we didn't turn down that road, we're going into a very hostile area where we will have combat. And so it becomes apparent they're stuck, they're stopped. People are starting to come out of their houses, and it's not good. He has an out-of-body experience in that moment where he actually finds himself above his truck and he can see the entire convoy, and he winds up directing the entire convoy on where to turn. He's physically out of his body, like that. Well, that doesn't make sense.
So physical body in the truck,
right? But his spirit or whatever it is, right, out of body. He has this out of body experience, and he heard a voice before it happened and said, "What you do next will determine if you all live or die." And he has this experience, and he sees everything, and he is able to take what he sees, and then his physical body in the truck is on the radio telling people where to turn and stuff, and they were able to get out of there. It was a fantastic story. But so, I mean, that was just like, I remember doing that interview with my dad, and we're sitting there, and this is the first interview we've ever done. Okay. I mean, like, the first episode was an episode that I recorded a couple years before. I just held on to it. Right. And then there was Sam. This is what I'm talking about. And I told my dad during this interview, I said to him, "This is in the top 3 interviews I've ever done." And I just told him, I was like, "Don't expect this every week on the show." like the odds of it. Yeah, like I was like, this is not normal, okay? Like this is like just on another level. Right, and right. So that was a really good episode. But we had we interviewed Todd Dewey from Ice Road Truckers. That was fun. There's this guy that always pops in my head when people ask me about Hammer Lane, and we called it throwing trash and stacking cash. And it was a trash guy, and he just came on and talked about his experiences as a trash guy and all the bizarre things he's gone through, and it was so funny. I remember laughing so much during that episode, and that's what I like about Hammer Lane is there's a lot more laughing than serious talk. Right. But that was such a funny, like he like I'm talking about like people who, so like he's collecting trash, and then there's like some guy standing in a bathrobe with nothing on underneath, and his hands are up his butt crack, and he's scratching his butt, and like he's chasing after the truck trying to get him to I don't know, like throw away one piece of paper or something, like it's just crazy stuff, like just
stuff, yeah,
bizarre. Like it's like if you ever saw the movie Men at Work with the Charlie Sheen and
Emilio Estevez,
yeah. So like it's like that, like only times 10. The stories he had were just like it's just like every day being a trash guy is an adventure, like, and so it was really funny. Then there was this guy, he's on Instagram, the Boston Trucker, I think it was episode 18. He just, good interview, good conversation. And then I said to him, so, do you have any bizarre experiences as a trucker? He's been doing it for a long time. He's like, well, there's this one. And he goes into like a 20-30 minute story of how he picked up a girl at a stop who her boyfriend had just like abandoned her or something. and she turned into this crazy chick that he just could not get rid of. And like he just talked about, like he told this like long story where you're just like, holy crap, like she was crazy.
Like
he
crazy
couldn't get
how?
Like
mentally unstable.
Yeah, she was unstable, bro. And so like she's like, you know, going crazy on him, and no
wonder the boyfriend kicked her out.
Right. But like he couldn't get rid of her. Like she just kept like anything short of like kicking her out of the truck while it's driving down the highway. She wasn't going anywhere. He just couldn't like she was showing up at places that like she knew he was going to be at, you know, like he just couldn't get rid of her. And so she winds up like traveling all over the country with him. And it was actually a really funny story and on how he got rid of her and stuff. But we called the episode, have you ever heard of lot lizards for truckers? It's like when the truck drivers.
I know. Yeah. Lot lizards.
Yeah. So they're picking up.
You don't want to be a lot lizard.
No, yeah. Like the prostitutes that hang out in the trucking stops, they're called lot lizards. And so we called the episode the lot leech, because like she was like a leech. She just held on. And so like, you know, so that was a fun show. But we've had, you know, some serious ones. We had this one guy talk about how trucking basically saved his life from killing himself. You know, alcohol abuse, things like that. You know, it's just, we kind of go over that. We had this one lady, Susan, on a couple of times, and she's a tow truck driver in Chicago. I mean, she has stories. But she has, like, we wanted to have her back on the show a couple of times now, but she hasn't responded to my text. I think she got mad at us or something, because she I'll just say I don't care. She doesn't answer me. She would, so like she got my number. I text her to ask her, you know, hey, are you still good for today's interview? So she had my number, and then she was like, it was like a green light for her to just text me all the time. And if I didn't answer, she's like, hello, are you there? I'm like, I don't answer to you ever. I'll let you know when I talk to you. You know, like I don't have time to just like, I mean, let me just right here. Hang on a second. I don't know if you're gonna be able to see this, but no, you're not. It's gonna be fun. I got 83 text messages on my phone that I have not opened yet. Like I'm sorry, Susan from Chicago, but like I hardly ever answer my wife's text messages, so don't expect much from me. And thank
you for answering mine. I appreciate you, bro.
Well, so I you know, I think she got upset about that, and she stopped answering us and stuff. So it's like, whatever, you know, it is what it is. Can't make everybody happy. But yeah, Hammerlane Legends, it's a lot of fun. We just talk to people, and it's not just truck drivers, it's tow truck drivers. We've had Uber people on, people who drive city buses. You know, if you're in the transportation industry of some kind, you know, let's do it. Let's talk about your experiences. The city bus drivers go through a lot too and stuff, man. The characters they drive around all day. Holy crap, dude. Like you see those videos online of like the New York subways of people dancing and doing bizarre things. That's a city bus, man. Like this is like every day is a new adventure. You know?
So how would they contact you?
They email us. What is the email? It's hllpodcast@protonmail.com. Or they can go to the website hammerlanelegends.com, and we have a contact page on there. And they just submit hey, I'm Joey Alvarez, and I've been driving truck for 3 years, and you want to have me on the show? How about next week? You know, so like, yeah, I mean, like the Hammerlane Legends doesn't have the big traffic through the emails like the Confessionals, so people can get on Hammerlane Legends a lot faster than the Confessionals. It's a little bit more of a process for the Confessionals, but yeah, I mean, we're always looking for people to come on and stuff. So yeah,
that's awesome, brother. So your experiences on the road.
Oh,
talk about them. Craziest or. I know you have them, Tony. I don't know if I have a ton of crazy experiences, man, to be honest with you. I remember you telling a story. I don't know if it was when you were driving trucks, of you being parked somewhere in the morning and seeing the UFO. Oh yeah. So I wasn't parked. I was driving. See, this is the kind of person I am. I can't do things right off the bat. Somebody needs to jog my memory. You know, it's like, what's your name? I don't remember. Tony, that's what my name is. I'm here to help you, brother.
Yeah. I was driving down 276 going from Ben Salem back to our terminal, and it was dark out, nighttime, and I see this light in the sky. You see lights in the sky in Philadelphia. I mean, it's funny because when I first started doing what I do publicly, people that know me would text me pictures about these lights in the sky they saw. And every time it was a plane coming into the Philadelphia airport. And what happens is you see this long line of evenly spaced lights in a line. And people are like, oh my gosh, what is that? And it's just the planes have to be evenly spaced coming into the airport. It's just, one after another, taking their turns kind of thing. And so I would get a lot of that. And so I'm used to seeing that stuff. But this was different. It was brighter. As I got close, I think it was a different color too. I could tell from a distance, but I'm driving towards it, and it was so bright that I saw it for about 2 miles before I got up to it. Like it wasn't moving. It was stationary. I was getting closer to it. And at first I didn't pay much mind to it. And then as I got closer, I just realized I was like, this thing isn't moving. I've been watching this for a while. And I remember as I was driving by it, I'm looking out my driver window. I'm looking up at it, and it's a dark sky, but I could see the silhouette of this thing. And it was not obviously it wasn't a plane, but it definitely wasn't a helicopter because of the shape of this thing. It at first I called it like a V shape. But it wasn't a total V. It was like a check mark. It was like one side of the wing or whatever was shorter than the other. And it was just hovering there. And could it have been a drone? Maybe. I don't know. But I saw it several times. I think within like a 2-3 month period, I saw it like two or three other times. And that was kind of bizarre. You see a lot of just driving, because I mean, I'm not doing cross country driving. I was home every day. I was doing, the Philadelphia area. I go in, punch a clock, go home at night. So I'm not having experiences of sleeping in truck stops and things like that. But I can tell you, driving in the Philadelphia area around heavy traffic, you come to understand that you're like a nuclear bomb driving down the highway, and you got all of these little tiny missiles flying around you. And your job is to just make sure you don't blow any of them up.
Right.
And the thing that sucks is like you're doing defensive driving and they're not. And they're like, all right. So here's the thing. If you're trying to merge onto a highway and I'm in the right-hand lane, it's 2 lanes, there's a passing lane, right-hand lane, and there's a car next to my trailer, and you're trying to merge on the highway and you don't see that car, you don't know why I'm not getting over, but I don't get over. And because I don't get over, you get mad at me in a snowstorm and you pass me, cut me off, and then brake check me. I got news for you, homeboy. You think you're doing me hurting me? You ain't doing nothing to me. At the end of the day, I get to go home and have sex with my wife. You're the one that's going to be in a wheelchair, And so like that kind of stuff happened all the time. Drove me nuts, But like, I remember I was coming out of Philadelphia, and there was a trucker who was pissed off at a city bus driver. It was a SEPTA bus, and we were coming out on the Schuylkill, and this truck driver like was trying to push the SEPTA bus off the road. Like wow. He was weaving a tractor trailer, weaving in and out of traffic to keep up with the SEPTA bus and trying to push him off the road. And I was just like, what happened? Like, what in God's name happened that you, as a tractor trailer truck driver, this is your livelihood, you're willing to throw it all away for a city bus driver? Like, what the heck happened? Like they better have your child in there. This better be like, Sylvester Stallone with Over the Top. You're chasing down the bad guy because they stole your kid.
Well, lot Leach was in the
right. So like something, because I mean, I was like, dude, you're going crazy right now. But like we had drivers that, this one guy, he had the worst luck. Like he saw somebody commit suicide, and then the one time he's driving and he's in Philly. Always happens in Philly. He's driving down like a neighborhood. It's a sketchy. Obviously, it's a sketchy neighborhood is what I'm about to tell you. But
North Philly?
Yeah. So like, instead of just doing your freaking job and drive your truck to the next stop and mind your own freaking business and don't get involved in the local community at all as an outside truck driver, just get in and get the hell out, right? Like, instead of doing that, he's looking around, enjoying the scene, just having a jolly old time. And then he looks over in an alley and sees bed sheets all piled up. And he's like, that looks weird. Let me stop my truck and go look at it and see why there's a pile of bed sheets in the alley. And what does he find? A dead body.
Oh, shit.
I'm just like, bro, let it go. like of all the drivers, he always had that kind of stuff happening to him because he just wouldn't mind his own business. Like he was always, you're in the city to drive a truck and do deliveries, and he would do that and other things. And it's just like, dude, just do your job and get out. Like, you could avoid, because he's like, I wouldn't wish that on anybody, like for him to find a dead body. I'm like, you didn't have to find a dead body, bro. You could have just kept driving. Somebody else would have found it, you know?
Like, he was an explorer and a truck driver.
Yeah. Like, it was just like, you know, Robert the Explorer, like Dora the Explorer, you know, like I'm just like, bro, like, you know, leave your little Dora the Explorer backpack at home and just drive the freaking truck, you know?
Tell the map to shut up. Shut up, Matt.
Exactly. So, yeah, I mean, it was an interest. It was very interesting, the environment that I found myself driving in. So it wasn't like some of the stories I have in my show where people like we had a couple people say they saw a plane crash in front of them, kind of thing, you know?
Whoa, crazy.
But like, mine was environment. So like, when you're in North Philadelphia and you gotta do a delivery to a place that you shouldn't be doing a delivery to in a tractor trailer, but you still gotta do it, and you wind up having to jack your trailer across all lanes of traffic in North Philadelphia, a residential neighborhood, and there's nowhere for the cars to go. They can't back out, and everybody is backed up for like, you know, a half a mile each direction. And they can't go anywhere. They're honking their horns at you. And until you get this delivery done, they're stuck. And you're like, how many of these people are so angry with me that they would hurt me? You know, like you start thinking about that stuff and you're just like, just get in, get out, just get in, get out, get in. Cause it's North Philadelphia, Kensington area, not a good area, you know, it's very rough. And so, you know, it's just, we had a driver, the one guy, he had a delivery in one of the worst neighborhoods you could be in. And the neighborhood, it's like, they know if you're an outsider. Obviously he was driving a straight truck. Obviously he's an outsider, but they didn't care. And he gets out to go do his delivery. It was a residential delivery. So he had to deliver it to somebody's home. And he said the looks that everybody gave him was like, you don't belong here and you need to get out of here. And it's like, but I got to do my job. And so, you know, it's like, it's a tug of war mentally there. But we had guys that are just like, unsafe environment, not doing it, you know, like tell them to come to the terminal and pick it up, you know, so
yeah, I don't blame them.
It is what it is.
But the story that I was talking about, you had talked about it on one of your shows with the guest, I believe. And it was a daytime sighting where you say you saw this craft. It was there, not moving for a while, but then eventually it started to move. And you made a comment that it was moving toward this area where they were doing these so-called experiments, like I think maybe like it was like a secret base or maybe some sort of a military place. You know what I'm talking about, or am I making shit up?
No. I mean, maybe you are. I don't remember. I don't remember the story, so it must not have been too impressive to me, I guess. But where I saw the craft that I was talking about, that was near the retired military base, the Willow Grove Air Force Base. Like I was driving by Willow Grove, and so I know with that story, I was talking about how maybe it was a drone that came out of the Air Force Base, because I my former truck driving job, I actually went on the base when they were moving everything out, and I was helping move stuff out. And so I knew that the base was not totally in operation, but I also knew that people worked there still because I've done deliveries there. So it made me wonder if they had other things going on in that area as far as like secret stuff, you know, and I've had people reach out to me and tell me, yes, they are still doing stuff. It's just they're not flying planes anymore. They're flying other things.
Is that near Allentown?
It's not far from Allentown. I would say probably about 30 minutes.
Because I don't remember I told you that I had a ex-acquaintance that was hanging out. He lived or near Allentown. So I'm wondering if that's the place he drove up on with his
maybe. It's not too close to Allentown. I remember I reached out to that guy. Did I tell you that?
Yeah, he didn't. He wanted my information, I think.
Yeah. That wasn't happening, right?
No, it wasn't happening.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, so I was trying to get that location, but now I'm moving, so I don't care.
Who cares? Fuck you, right?
Yeah, I mean, Tennessee's got like 3 rumored underground military bases, so I'm not short on content. You know, I got the Smoky Mountains and the bizarre things that happen there.
So before we get into Legion of Legends, okay, I wanted to talk about something else that you had brought up and that you had made videos for, and I never found out what the resolution was. And that was the situation you were having at home where you were finding your door open. Can you go into that and whatever happened? What was the resolution? Is it still happening now?
No, it's not happening now. And I think that it was, in all honesty, I think it was a mom who was stressed and forgetting that she wasn't closing the door. Because like, you know, when I'm working down here and she's in charge of migrating the children from playtime, going crazy upstairs for bath time, bedtime, and it's all on her, I think she forgets stuff, because after that, nothing's ever happened again. It happened a few times and all that, but I think it was just a forgetful mom, to be honest with you. I don't think it was paranormal.
Because that's good. I'm happy.
Yeah, me too. Like
you seem really stressed out when you were making those videos, man.
Well, you know, I wouldn't say stressed as much as engaged. I was just like, okay, this is getting interesting. You know, my dad, when I made that video, I don't think he was on video, but he was nervous. I could tell, because like I turned out all the lights and stuff, and he's like, "What is that? What the freak is this kid doing?" You know, what's he about to do, a seance or something? You know.
All right, so your dad, right? Let's go into your dad. Has he told you anything about his truck driving experiences? Anything crazy on his end, or?
What can I share? That's the question.
Yeah. What can you share?
Yeah. So I think there's one story I'm not going to share because I don't know if he shared it, and that means he probably doesn't want it shared. But he almost died about 5 years ago or something.
So is he still active?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, he could have died on this one. He was coming back to his terminal. He drives at night, and it was the morning time, and he was driving behind 2 vehicles. His exit was everyone. He's driving behind 2 vehicles. One was like a van, and another one was like a pickup truck that was carrying propane tanks, a lot of propane tanks. And the minivan, which was leading, decided to get in the passing lane and then cut across the highway on the median to go the opposite direction. So so obviously not a safe move. And the minivan was driving slow because they were preparing to do that. The pickup truck was driving slow because he was behind the minivan. And then my dad was driving slow because of that. So when that happens, they're coming up on an exit. And so it's kind of dumb. You can see the exit. Instead of getting on that exit and then just turning around, going back down the other way, this person decides to cut across the median. So when that happens, and then the pickup truck is still moving slow. And so my dad gets in the passing lane and starts passing. Turns out that pickup truck was following the minivan. And instead of that pickup truck getting in the passing lane, putting his turn signal on, and then making the illegal turn across the median, that guy's in the right-hand lane and just decides to turn.
Throws his car. Across. Yeah.
And so he doesn't look in his mirrors. And my dad is driving a big red tractor trailer. It's not hard to see. Clearly, you didn't look in your mirrors. But this guy turns from the right-hand lane across the passing lane to hit the median little cutout to go the other way. My dad T-bones him with all those propane tanks in the trailer. And my dad probably pushed him about 50 feet. It was a brand new truck my dad was driving. Totaled the truck. They rebuilt the truck, but it was total. It was jacked up. But not one propane tank blew. And so, yeah, that was, pinch your butt cheeks together, scary. It's just
yeah. So he did no injuries. He was good.
No, he's good. That's the thing that you have to understand with I mean, you can die driving tractor trailer. You can get injured with an accident, but the person that you're hitting is the one you're really worried about, because the truck itself, not the trailer, just the truck itself is usually about 15,000 pounds. Yeah. And then you got a trailer. If the trailer's empty, that's another 15,000 pounds. So together with an empty trailer, you got 30,000 pounds empty. Now that's rare, right? So if you're pulling a full load, say you're pulling a full load and you got 80,000 pounds of freight in your trailer, plus the 30,000 pound trailer, plus the 15,000 pound tractor, and you hit a pickup truck, there's a problem. That's a real problem. And so your biggest concern, at least mine, has always been, making sure I don't kill anybody, because I wasn't worried about not going home. I'm going to be, unless short of me driving it off a bridge, rolling it or something like that. If I just hit somebody, I'll be fine. It's just the other person may not be. And that's the thing that just was very stressful driving in the Philly area, is just the fact that people just didn't seem to either care or understand how lethal we are. And they would do things like brake check you. And it's just like, in a snowstorm, are you kidding me? It's just like, you will die. You will die. I mean, I'll go to jail probably, but you will die. And it's just, it was a very stressful job. It's a lot. It's a new kind of stress, but it's a lot less stressful sitting behind a computer doing a podcast. So I like that.
All right, so let's get into this League of Legends. Okay, when did the concept come about? And what constituted the change? And let me tell you why I say that. Because I'm doing an interview, and I'm interviewing you about paranormal stuff like that. I've interviewed another guest about paranormal. I'm not an investigator, so I'm not going to try to pretend I am. And when you were doing your interviews, you never pretended to really be an investigator. But now here you are, you're an actual investigator. What made that change? What to leave that room to go out into the woods, to look for something? But even if you don't find what you're looking for, there's still dangers out there. What made that come to fruition, so to speak?
One would say I'm mentally held back.
Aren't we all, Tony?
No, I did that stuff before podcasting. On weekends, I would hike around the woods. I would go miles off trail, and I've always been an adventurous type person in spirit. Podcasting, when I first started podcasting, one of my good friends, Dave Groves, he had a Bigfoot encounter in Pennsylvania, Western Pennsylvania. He was in my group. He was one of my admins, just a good friend, right? When we were talking about me doing this podcast, we were, he's letting me talk and dream a little bit. And I told him, I said, dude, imagine one day if I could turn this into an income and my full-time job would be to hunt for Bigfoot. And he's like, that would be amazing. Well, I forgot about that whole concept over the years because you're so focused on podcasting, you become a podcaster. And then I was, it was a progression. So I found these YouTuber guys that I think they make fake videos, but golly, they're entertaining. I love them. Who
are they? Can you say it or no?
Yeah. His one guy is Mo Sargi. The other guy is Omar. I think his channel is Omar TV or something. They got millions of subscribers. But if they, let's just put it this way. Almost every video they put out, and they put out multiple a week, almost every video they put out would be a grand slam interview if it happened and somebody told their story on my show. And they're just always putting out amazing content. And just eventually you're like, these guys are faking. They have to, or at least, they're going into these places, but I think they're putting it on a little bit. And if they're not, awesome. I would love to talk with them. Right.
Well, what do they fake? What would they be faking?
The experiences that they're filming. So like for instance,
Give me an example, please.
Mo, he had several videos. Like he had this, it was just this concept that this demon Tom followed him around. And so like he would go into a basement of an abandoned house, start doing a Ouija board, and then all of a sudden you hear this banging upstairs, or somebody's walking upstairs and there's nobody in the house. His friend he came over and became into a trance, and he turns around, his friend's gone, and he's looking all over. He can't find his friend anywhere. He goes out to an outbuilding outside, and his friend's standing in the corner of an outbuilding facing the wall. He shakes.
I think I've seen that.
Yeah. So I mean, entertaining. I love it. Right. But I personally don't think it's real. If it is real, awesome. I'm not knocking them, because I really, really enjoy their videos. I watch them whenever I get a chance because it's fun. I really enjoy it. And if it is real, gosh, guys, like, get on my freaking show. So that said, watching their videos and being super entertained, I was like, these guys have a really good thing going for themselves. And I started thinking, I want to do this, but I want to do it for real. Like I want to, like, I'm not going to go into a basement of a house and do a Ouija board, all that stuff. I don't believe in doing that, but I wanted to go and look around for, put myself in these environments and do this like action vlog type of thing. Cause they're all doing their own filming. So it's not like there's a camera crew, they're filming themselves. So you see them turn the camera and they're talking to the camera. So you see their face and they turn it around they're showing you where they're at and stuff. And they chop it all up. And so they take like a whole night of an investigation. They turn it into like a 30, 45 minute video. So you're getting all the highlights and, in my opinion, manufactured stuff. And so, I was like, I want to take the way the way they do this action vlog and do it myself, only not fake it. So like, let's see if we can make something that's entertaining, but real, And so I was like, okay, let's try that. And I figured we could do urban exploration. We can go out in the woods. We can do abandoned buildings, all that stuff. So my first thing I did was an abandoned industrial park that's 10 minutes from my house. It was just a random moment thing where my brother kept canceling on me, and so it was a Wednesday afternoon at like 3:00, and I was just like, screw this, and I grabbed my camera gear. I just went and I parked my truck in a playground, not a playground, like a baseball field and stuff where they do baseball games. And then I walked down the road and got into this private property complex. And it's like 15, 20 industrial buildings back there that are just completely abandoned.
Is that the one where it was like a lot of like vegetation had grown?
Yeah.
Place, and then I think, I don't know if it was your video, but it had like a hole with it said hell on it or something.
Yes.
Yeah, I do. Yeah. That was crazy, dude. You were by yourself?
Yeah.
You're nuts, dude.
I told you, I'm a little mentally held back.
Okay, continue.
I wasn't even thinking about like it being dangerous. I was just like, it was a Wednesday afternoon, it's beautiful out, and I wanted an adventure. And so I went, and I go in, and I'm walking down the road, and I'm just filming things. And one of the first things I came across was that hole in the wall that said hell. And so I investigated that a little bit. I didn't go in, but I wasn't going to go in. I told myself, you're not going in a building unless Jack's with you. You're not doing that alone. And so, which I almost did anyways, but I turned on the night vision on my camera, and I stuck it in the hole and stuff. And it was just a fun thing. Right. So I'm at that hole, and all of a sudden in the distance, I hear these motorcycles. Wah! And I'm just like, what was that? And all of a sudden they're louder and they're coming my way. I was like, there's not supposed to be anybody back here, And I'm in the Philly area. I'm like, is this gangs? Is it drug dealer? Like, now I'm thinking, because I'm already walking through there thinking I could come across a homeless person, a drug deal, a dead body. It'd be a great place to stash bodies. Yeah. And so like, I was like, crap. And so I hid behind the bushes on the staircase. They go flying by, and I continue exploring. I can hear them go way down the distance to these other buildings. and I'm doing my exploring, and I hit this like intersection where these two roads intersecting, and there's a building on each corner, and I forget what I said, but all of a sudden I hear in the distance the bikes, and they're coming, and I was like, crap, and you just see me running, and I'm booking it, and I dip behind some bushes, and I'm just like, I was behind the bushes for like 20 minutes, but I cut it down to like, I don't know, 3 to 5 minutes.
Right.
But there were people walking around on this road right out on the other side of these bushes, and I'm just like, do they know I'm here? Are they looking for me? Like I have, 2 cameras on me. Each one was over $1,000. I was like, I'm not trying to have smoke with anybody right now. And I realized at that moment, I think it was that moment, it was at that moment I realized I forgot to bring my gun, because I left in such a mind. I was just like, I'm just gonna go on an adventure, grab my cameras, put them in a bag, and I'm out. I said to wife, I'll be back for dinner, like, and so in that moment, I'm like, oh, I don't even have my gun on me,
No protection, yeah.
No protection. And I'm the kind of guy, I don't leave my house without a gun, but because I had my bag of cameras, which is something I usually don't leave my house without, or I usually don't leave with. I think my brain was just like, I got everything, I got this thing, it just didn't make sense. But anyways, that was a fun situation, and it was a fun video. People liked it. People said I was crazy for going alone. I said when I was hiding behind the bushes, I'm like, and I have this blue shirt on. It's so stupid I wore a blue shirt because it's going to stand out. And people are like, never wear a blue shirt, always wear camo and browns. And of course, the logical side says, of course, that. But in the moment, I was wearing a blue shirt, and I'm like, I'm going to go explore. And so that's it, very unprepared. But it was fun. And then we did a video where we went to the Michoud State Forest, me and my brother, and we found out that there was an old World War II prisoner of war camp in the middle of the woods. And it was one of the so almost every state during World War II had prisoner of war camps, but very few had interrogation camps. And this was an interrogation camp. And so I'm like, when I'm finding it online, I'm like, oh yeah, this is going to be good. Like I'm trying to find the scary haunting stories. There's none. And I'm like, dang it. Like I got to have some kind of angle, because my goal was going with these videos. Like I want to go to areas where there's multiple storylines. Like there's Bigfoot in the area, there's Dogman reports in the area, and there's a POW camp, We're going to explore the POW camp because I know I can show that. I'm not guaranteed to have a Bigfoot encounter, but if I go to the POW camp and explore that in a hot zone of Bigfoot and Dogman sightings, now we got an environment that's entertaining for video. And so that's why I was like, okay, we got to go there, but what's my angle? Like, because I'm not going to make the angle Bigfoot hunting at a POW camp. I could, but I didn't want to do that. So I'm reading around online about this stuff, and I'm trying to find somewhere where they're like, and the Americans would chop off the Nazis' ears if they didn't say something right. None of that happened. At least according to our maybe adjusted history on our end of things. Like supposedly Americans, we didn't torture the soldiers that we caught. Now the Japanese and Nazis did, but supposedly we didn't. So I'm like, dang it, like this is like a freaking day camp, and
you're not finding anything. Nothing.
So yeah. I found eventually an angle though, because it turns out in these interrogation camps, after a Nazi soldier was interviewed by the Americans, if when they go back to their cell, where I guess it was like a group holding area, if the other Nazis felt like this one soldier was too forthcoming with information, they would kill them. And so I was like, that's my angle, because now I can say I'm going to a POW camp from World War II where Nazis killed Nazis. And I was like, perfect. And so we went, we did this. Yeah. And so I was doing an EVP session where I was just getting hits on my K2, and I had turned my camera off so it wouldn't interfere with the K2 meter. My brother was still filming with the night vision. And as soon as I turn my camera off, we hear a Bigfoot howl off in the distance. Oh, never heard anything like that in my entire life before in person. I heard it on recordings. That's why I knew what it was. And I look at my brother. I'm like, did you hear that? And he's like, I heard it. I'm like, do you think we caught it on audio? And he's like, absolutely. We had this discussion. I asked him that, and he said, absolutely. We get back to my truck, and it turns out before we went out that night, we accidentally dropped the camera, and I looked at the camera and it was filming fine. It seemed fine, but it also was dark out, so I couldn't see real good. Turns out the cord going from the external mic to the camera snapped. And so we didn't catch it on audio. And I was like, you gotta be kidding me. Like, I'm never gonna have an experience like that again in my life. Like, it's so hard to have that experience. And we didn't catch it on audio. When we're out here trying to film for this stuff, I was like, what are the freaking odds, man? I was mad. Heated.
So was it close? Did you feel like that it was close?
No, it was not close. I would say it was probably about a mile or two away. Based off of I don't know, based off my opinion.
So like, when you mean a howl, was it like what you would hear on like Finding Bigfoot? Was it like elongate, like long?
Yeah. So
like
it like kind of like, you know? Yeah, it kind of howled out. It was just like this, like like it was like that. It was long, and then it dropped off real hard. It's just like and then there was a second or two, and then there was a response. It was just like but it was like a weak response. It was almost like something was dying. It was just like and that was it. And I was just like,
crazy.
I was like, what the heck? And so, amazing night.
Right.
The video would have been a million times better if we caught it on audio. It turns out we were out there for 3, I think it was 4 hours filming with no audio, and we didn't know it. So we had the next morning, we went to the ruins and we filmed ourselves talking about what happened that night. And I overlaid us talking with the actual footage, saved the video, but it wasn't the greatest. So those were the 2 first Legion of Legends videos. Now those are no longer considered Legion of Legends because of what I just did in Kentucky. So going to Kentucky, we were going to do Legion of Legends. And I had a film what was different about this though, is I had 2 guys who were professional videographers coming to do the filming.
Well, before you get into that,
yeah,
Kentucky, right?
Yeah,
it's a very, like, I don't know if weird is the right word. It's got everything: UFOs, Bigfoot, goblins, whatever. And you mentioned Hellier, and I saw everything that they've done so far. That group, and it's very intriguing. I have a former acquaintance that used to live in Kentucky. There's something magical. I don't know in a good way or a bad way about Kentucky, but you going there, like, I was like, wow, man, he's gonna get something. Like, I know you were gonna get something. Like, something was gonna happen. So go ahead, do your thing.
Well, we went, and I brought 2 videographers and my friend Joel from Van Tesla, and we got a cabin, and we investigated for a week this Dogman, and we went deep in the woods. We found tracks. We had experiences, and it was an interesting week. Okay, we had helicopters coming in on us, which was interesting.
Black helicopters?
Yeah. Well, I'll let Ward answer that because I think he said to me last night that he did catch one on video. Wow. I'm not sure if it's making it into the documentary or not. I still haven't seen the documentary, by the way. We're dropping it soon, but Christian is
11th?
Yeah. For the VIPs, and March 25th is for the public on YouTube. Okay. But so like Christian is the one producing the whole thing. But we had and this is where I said earlier, unless you remind me, I forget things. There are things that happened that week that I forget about until somebody says, I'm like, oh, that's right. That was interesting, you know? Right. But we had very interesting things happen that week. And I'll tell you this, the quality of what we're about to come out with is why what me and my brother did for Legion of Legends before cannot be associated with what we're about to do now. They have to be 2 separate things, because this trip, the angle our groove that we found on moving forward with future trips, the team that we have, and how we're going to be producing things is on such a high level that I would not dare bastardize it with what I did with my cameras in the woods, filming myself, trying to be
right. It's not on the same level.
Not the same. Yeah. So me and Jack got to come up with a new name for it. Yeah, I still want to do that. I think it's entertaining. It's an entertainment format, but it's not documentaries. This is a documentary, and both Christian and Ward used to film for Glenn Beck at the Blaze. Christian has done stuff with Discovery Channel, History Channel. These guys are professionals, you know, and they have told me on multiple occasions that they believe that we have something in quality of quality of content, whether you like what we came up with or not.
Right.
The quality of what we're offering, they think is something that this industry has never seen. And we're doing it in a way where the camera guys are part of the team. The camera guys are part of the story. They're not just they're not the guys standing there that nobody wants to acknowledge is even there.
Right, like I'm Finding Bigfoot. You got them in the background, right, and you don't even know who they are.
Like it's like you're able to see it because of the cameraman, but we're not going to talk that they're even there because it takes away from the edge. We integrated it all.
Right.
Like Christian was seen on video. Ward was seen on video. Now Ward was probably least seen on video because he shot most of the video, but he was part of the story and his opinions and it's this team of guys, cameramen. Joel's like a stuntman, like Joel, like if we need somebody to hang off a cliff, that's Joel. He's going to go do it. You know, it's just, we have this crew of guys that it's like, what do you need? Let's do it. And,
like the A-team.
Yeah. Like I'm telling you, yeah, that's a great right. Analogy.
Because everybody has their special talents that they bring to the group.
Right. And they overlap at times. And right. It's just like, it's my A-team. And so like what we're about to come out with. And like I said, I have not seen it yet, but right. I trust these two guys who've been doing it professionally for a long time. When they tell me it's going to be really good, right. I believe them, you know, watch it be a dud. I'm like, oh, you guys lied. Well,
when you show us the Dogman that you sat down and had dinner with and everything, then, you know.
Yeah. If that happened, I would have talked about it by now. So.
I know.
Yeah. But we're planning more trips. We're planning on doing, I think our next one is going to be doing Skinwalker Ranch. We have a lot of big trips in mind and planned. So, you know, we'll see what happens, but this is a documentary format, right. But it's done differently. And I'm really excited about what we come up with. I think as we do more of them, they're going to get better and better. We're already brainstorming on different things we can do on the next ones that kind of just give it more of an edge. But we did, man. Like we went to Daniel Boone National Forest. We investigated during the day. We went out at night. We went to hot spots at night where we had bizarre things happen. Right. And we put out hanging stakes from trees, trying to bait this thing in, coyote urine, dead coyote howling sounds, trying to lure these things in, you know.
And did it do its job, so to speak?
We didn't have to. Looking back, I don't think we had to. I think it was already there.
It was already there.
Something was there.
Okay, so you had an encounter. I don't want to, obviously, your thing's coming out. I don't want you to spoil it. You're not going to. I know you already. It's like, no, I'm not spoiling it. But you encountered something. Your mission was for the Dogman, but you encountered something. Could it have been something else?
It could have been. But it could have been Dogman too.
Right.
So,
I understand. Yeah.
So like, my brain has changed a lot on my perspective of what these things are over the years, and I do think that they're metaphysical. I believe that.
Correct.
I really do. And so, what
related? Are they related to Bigfoot? Do you believe?
I think that they come from the same place. No. Yes. No. Maybe. So I think that
are they physical? Do you believe they're physical, or not just? Or are they physical and something else?
I think that they can be. I think that there are chimeras that are created by the government, and I think that the government gets this idea from something else that actually happens. I think that there is the science tells us there's parallel universes. We know that CERN is. Well, it's strongly theorized that CERN is opening portals, right?
Right, with the Hadron Collider.
We know that there are people who are in schools of mystery saying that when they go to learn how to do witchcraft, one of the things they're taught is how to open portals. And I've heard reports of them opening portals and upright walking dogs walking through. So these things can be physical, but I think they're metaphysical as well. Josh Turner, I don't know if it's his original idea, but he suggests that he believes that the longer they're in this realm, the more physical they become. And so
they become a part of this world.
Yeah, the longer they're here.
Right. Okay.
And so interesting concepts, but one thing is for sure, I don't think that they're just it's just a species that walks upright. No, right. I don't think that's the case. I used to go with that angle because I didn't really think the way I think now. But the more I've learned, the more I'm like, yeah, there's more than just, oh, that's a hairy ape walking around the woods that we can't keep up with. And oh, that's a dog that walks on hind legs that we just can't keep up with. There's more to it. And so what we experienced, I think, was on the metaphysical level, but also the physical level.
Right.
And I say we. I didn't experience it. My two of my guys experienced it, Joel and Christian. I was going up a hillside with Kyle because Kyle wanted to take me to, he thought there was a water tank up on the hillside where the government put it in these like man-made little ponds so that wildlife could drink out of that. So they don't have to go to the big lake where the hunters are and get, basically eradicated.
Yeah.
So we're going up the hillside and my team, all of a sudden we hear, get back down here, come back. I'm like, what? I'm just like, let's go. And we go down and stuff. And they're like, did you hear that? I'm like, no, what? And they're like, you didn't hear that? I was like, no, what? And then they told me what they experienced and what they went through. And I was like, are you, oh, okay. And Kyle, after hearing it, goes through a PTSD episode. He's having a breakdown. And in the excitement, hopefully we can keep our wits about us better next time. But in the excitement, Christian or Joel, one of the two, suggested that they go off alone around the hillside to try flanking this thing and pushing it back towards us. And I go, that's a great idea, guys. After we had the conversation that we do not split up.
Right.
We had that conversation earlier that day.
That's a rule.
And what do? We're like, sounds good. I look at Ward and he's like, and Ward's the cautious one of all of us. Like, and we took a vote and Ward's just like, okay, so they go off alone. And then we realize we didn't give them a walkie. So we have no communication now with them.
Wow.
And I'm just like, what are we doing? And then so Ward winds up flanking up the hillside in front of us. And me and Kyle are standing on this path. And Kyle is looking off. Now he's calmed down now. Kyle won't be out there at night. He was showing us around during the day. He's like, you guys are on your own at night. Good luck. You're stupid for doing it. And so he's calmed down and he looks off in the direction of where this incident happened. And he says, do you see that? And I was like, no, what? And he's like, that light right there. And I'm like, I don't see it. And he's kind of pinpointing it to me. And he's like, look at this branch. And I finally see it. There was a light, broad daylight. This is not nighttime, broad daylight. Ward's walking up the hillside. This light is on. My other two guys are flanking it around the back. And me and Kyle are standing there looking at this little light in broad sunny daylight. There's no trash out there. None of that, We're deep in the Daniel Boone National Forest.
How deep are you, would you say? How many miles?
At least 4 miles.
Okay.
At least 4 miles.
From where your vehicle is, right? Where you guys...
Right. Oh, yeah, exactly. So we're deeper than, 4 miles, but like we're 4 miles away from our truck.
Right.
And there's this little bright white light that's on, and then it's just gone. And then like 5 minutes later, it's on, and then it's just gone. And I'm like, he's like, it's eye shine. I'm like, that ain't eye shine to me, man. Like, I don't, like, I have a very hard time with eye shine because I'm like, unless these things are illuminating light, like, where's this eye shine coming from?
Because eye shine usually is seen at nighttime with a source of light projecting towards that thing.
And it was just one light. And the way I describe it to everybody is it looked like somebody had a small LED flashlight they were flicking on and off.
What color? Just like a
white, just a white little white, wow. Just a very little white light. And so I go over and I'm like trying to pinpoint where this light's coming from. And I'm right at where we could see it. I had no idea where this light was coming from. It was just gone. And so eventually my crew comes back around and they had their own experience while they were out there that was affecting them physically. And it was very interesting. Then we went at night, and when they were hanging the bait, me and Christian were filming in night vision on the hillside, and they had a very similar experience from earlier in that day, that night at the same spot. So
they felt ill, like sick?
No, the initial experience that sent them off around the hillside. Yeah. They had a very similar experience that night. The same.
Because you were saying they felt physically ill, like something was wrong with them. Were they feeling sick?
Yeah, I think it was Christian or I can't remember. One of them started feeling sick and almost like I think heaviness in the chest or something. I don't want to spoil. I don't not spoil it. I don't want to speak for them because I don't remember all the details.
Yeah. Usually when Bigfoot like sightings, people will say that they feel sick and they think that it's because it's infrasound.
Yeah.
That is giving off to kind of drive a person away, you know. And that's if it was a Bigfoot. It could have been Dogman. It could have been something else. I mean, like I said, I don't want you to spoil it. I don't want to spoil it for anybody else.
Well, I mean, that definitely could be something to it with what they experienced. Jack experienced that with the Bigfoot howl. My brother Jack doesn't believe in Bigfoot. He doesn't believe in Dogman. He's a skeptic. He doesn't believe any of it exists. And so when we were at the POW camp, we hear the Bigfoot howl. Right after that, he got real sick. Like he wanted to throw up. He didn't tell me in the moment.
Right.
We get back to the truck and I have my camera on. We still don't know we didn't catch the audio. We're excited. I forgot that I had my camera on. I set it on the dashboard. So I'm still rolling so you can hear the conversation. And he says to me, he's like, man, out there, when we heard that and stuff, I got real sick. I started getting upset to my stomach. And I looked at him, I'm like, really? And he's like, yeah. And I was like, you should have told me, dude. I said that's very common. He's like, really? And I said, I broke it down to the infrasound and stuff. And he's like, wow. He's like, yeah, I started feeling really sick and it took a while for it to go away. And so that does happen to people. But yeah, Kentucky was a very interesting experience, man. We had, like I said, we found tracks. We went up on this rock mountain hillside, deep in the woods the one day, and we're sitting there and I have this coyote call blaster and I'm blasting it out over the valley and stuff. It's just like this like dying coyote.
Right.
And let's just put it this way. After I did it, at one point, something came crashing through the woods in our direction.
Whoa.
I mean, it was just like we all just broke our necks looking. And we're just like,
bluff charge, man.
We were waiting. We were like, here it comes. Ward has his gun. We had the guns ready. I'm just like, yeah. Christian, make sure you get this on film. It's about to go down. Yeah. We're going to become the legends, you know. Like, we are Legion of Legends, you know.
Yeah, that sounds like a bluff charge to me, man.
Dude, it was just it was fun. It was exciting. It was scary. It was an experience. And
did you cast the track?
No. So that's one thing that we need to do moving forward is have stuff to cast with. We didn't have that.
Right.
But we wouldn't have been able to cast anyways to cast. Right. But what we found was on our first day at Kyle's second encounter location, we found a print that could have been a cat or a canine. It's one of the two, right? But if it was a cat, first of all, according to Kentucky, they don't have mountain lion. Okay?
They don't have big cats there.
I don't believe that. I don't believe that. Just like I don't believe it for Pennsylvania. I know there's mountain lions in Pennsylvania because I've seen pictures of them. People have sent me pictures of them. Same thing with Kentucky. But if this was a cat, it would have been one of the biggest cats in the Pacific Northwest that it's out there. So those cats out there get 200, 250 pounds, and they're big cats. That's the size we're looking at here. A very large cat. And they just don't get that big on the East Coast in this area. They just don't.
Right.
It was a very big print. And we also heard, before we found that print, we heard something crashing through the trees, like heavy, not like a deer prancing. This was heavy crashing trees. And so it just, Kentucky has a lot of mystery. The Daniel Boone has a lot of mystery. And I'm going to find it. I'm going to find it, man.
You said your next thing is Skinwalker, but why not continue to do research there if you're already getting results?
We want to do everything, man. We want to do everything. You know, like we'll go back.
Okay, so you will come back full circle and come back and do it
for sure.
Okay. Because I know there's an underground system there for sure. I mean, Hellier exposed that part.
Yeah. So like, here's the thing. I mean, like I don't want to do Kentucky because then all I do is build an audience that expects Kentucky all the time. I want to do everything. And so like, we're going to travel all over the country hunting legends. And most often than not, it'll be things that we've heard on the show or direct stories from the show. Like when I go out to Skinwalker Ranch, we're actually staying, as of right now, if I can find a way to get on the ranch, we're doing it. But we're going to be staying on the property right that butts up to the ranch. And it's the reason why that is because I interviewed the guy who owns that property, and he invited me out, you know? So like it's tied with the Confessionals, where it's like we're going out hunting for the legends that we heard about on the Confessionals now. And so like it's just and it's bound to evolve over time, but that's what we're doing right now. And it's I'm telling you, man, like I feel very confident in saying that with the talent of my cameramen and the talent of the team, we are going to have some really entertaining stuff. And as we do it more, we're going to get better at working together and the concept and knowing what we want out of the project before we even get into it. Like this was just like, we went, built team chemistry, got to know each other, and at the same time filmed stuff without a storyline of what we were going for. And it's still awesome.
Well, the encounter, the experience made its own storyline, right? Would you agree?
For sure. And that was the basis of everything why we were going. Episode 335, Dog versus Dogman of the Confessionals.
Kyle, right?
Yeah, Kyle. But Christian, one of his greatest talents is seeing the overall story and vision of the project and tying it all together. And so moving forward, knowing that now, him and Ward are gonna tag team that, and we're gonna go into Skinwalker Ranch area, and they're already gonna have ideas of how the final product's gonna look, you know, barring an encounter with something, right? Just like you go in planning, okay, odds are we're not gonna have any experiences, so how can we make this entertaining and show people that we were out there trying our best to have something happen, right? They have this very high talent of drawing this storyline, the picture of what we're doing out there in an entertaining way. And if anything happens outside of that, it's just going to magnify it already. And so I feel very confident in saying that this team is going to put out some really, really cool stuff moving forward. And I'm really excited about it.
Yeah, it sounds awesome. You said the VIP part drops March 11th, and then March 25th, it's available to everybody else.
Yeah, on YouTube, the Confessionals YouTube channel, it'll be available to everybody on March 25th. Now, this is the first and last project that we are going to release that will have any point in time be free for anybody because it's expensive to do these trips. Right. And so we needed. So this first one, the reason why we're doing the VIP is to generate income so that we can afford to do the next trip. Because in all honesty, I spent over $5,000 on the Kentucky trip. I paid for everything, and I can't keep doing that. My wife will divorce me, you know, like she'll gone, see ya. Okay. Right,
like
I'm going to go find a doctor now. So like, I got to watch my step. So,
I got you.
So we're doing the VIP hoping to raise income. It's $25 to become a VIP. And then you get 2 weeks early access where we air it live to you on my website, Merkel.media. It's www.merkel.media, no.com. And, if you become a VIP there, you get access to it on Friday, March 11th at 9 p.m. We broadcast it live. And then as long as I can work out the technology right side of things, we'll be going live on video to do a live Q&A. And I think we can work it out, though, one way or another. And then 2 weeks later, we go live on YouTube, and that's going to be free. And the reason why we're not putting it on Amazon is because I want people to see what they're going to be getting in the future. If you like what this is, you ain't seen nothing yet. Right, and but I think moving forward, we're exploring different platforms, but we're probably leaning towards Amazon just because of the ability to have exposure. But there is a website that I'm really thinking about. It's called Lore TV, lore.tv, LOOR.
LOOR.TV, you said?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Ward actually has a docuseries coming out on that platform right now. It's called Dark Holler. So it should be coming out in March. It's called Dark Holler, Dark HOLLER. And it's about this high strangeness in Western Kentucky with his family who had possessions and just very bizarre stuff. And he has this whole story. So people can check that out.
Is that connected with the Hellier guys or no? Is that separate?
No. Ward is the complete opposite spectrum of the Hellier people. Ward is a very deep theological Christian. And so you're never going to catch him in the middle of a seance like the Hellier people. And the great thing about it is, man, like I'm a Christian, Ward's Christian, like my whole team, and I didn't mean it to be this way, but my whole team turned out to be Christians. And so we have this same theological conviction and perspective on things that is going to be a different take on this industry where, yeah, you're not going to see us do certain things that maybe you're used to seeing other people do. Like if you want to see somebody do a seance in the middle of the woods, go watch Hellier. We're not going to do that. We don't do those things. But there's so many other things we can do that's going to entertain you, but also bring other perspective. It's really cool. And I'm really excited to have Ward's Dark Hellier drop, and then obviously Legion of Legends. I'm going to have him on my show, and we'll probably release it in April. But I'm going to have him on my show talking about Dark Holler and stuff, even though it had already dropped at that point. I told him I personally want to focus on Legion of Legends. And then once we drop Legion of Legends, I'll bring you on and we can talk about Dark Holler. But yeah, I'm telling you, man, we got a cast of talented people. And it's just video documentaries is just like the next step for me, man. And I'm blessed that I stumbled into this crew. Like Ward contacted me last year about Dark Holler, and I was interested in it. So we had a phone call conversation, hit it off for like 3 hours, and we just became friends. And Christian came out to my live show I did in Houston in 2019, introduced himself to me, and then he emails me saying that, he does filmmaking and he's a treasure hunter. And I'm like, oh, that's really cool. Like we should keep in touch because I love treasure hunting. I want to hear about your journeys and if we can have you on the show and promote your stuff. And then I text him because he texts me throughout the years saying we should do something together. We should work together. And he's a treasure hunter though. And I text him and I'm like, you want to hunt a Dogman in Kentucky? And he's like, I'm there, And so like this was out of his realm, but he was willing to come. Right. Same with Ward. Like he's never did this before, but Ward actually is he also is a self-defense teacher, tactical training. So like I had a guy who is like my security expert on the team at the same time as a cameraman. Joel, I had a team of guys that I was planning on bringing, and one by one, they just started dropping out last minute. Like I'm 3 weeks away and I don't have a team other than 2 cameramen. I'm like, I don't know what the heck we're going to do. Right. And so I was like friends with Joel from having him on my show, and everybody should check out his music, by the way, Van Tesla. And so
Van Tesla, right?
Yeah.
Like Van Halen and the group Tesla,
like Van Gogh and Tesla, only it's Van Tesla. So I reached out to him and I'm like, hey man, like, I don't know if this is up your alley, but would you feel like coming to Kentucky and hunting a Dogman with me? And he's like, absolutely, I will. When,
Cool.
So I'm like, okay. I was shocked because I really didn't think he'd be interested because his music is more like, let's talk about the global cabal and the way, they're controlling our minds kind of music. He he doesn't really talk about this kind of stuff. So I just assumed he really wasn't into it. I was wrong because I didn't know he had a tattoo of a big alien on the back of his arm. And like, yeah, he's like all about that life. And so I was just like, okay, so these three guys come with me. My brother was supposed to be there, but he had to bail out, and he's the only one that I'm keeping on board for the next project because his blood, and I believe in him. So we go and do this, man, and it just happened, man. Like the chemistry was there. I'm watching it unfold around me during the week, and I'm like, this is my team. Like I accidentally found the best team I could have had. It was just perfect. Nobody came in with egos. We were all humble. We listened to each other's advice.
That'll kill a group. Ego will kill a
for
group.
Sure. Listen, Ward is very clearly obvious the most proficient with guns and self-defense of all of us. Head and shoulders above. And if I was egotistical as the leader, I'd be like, no, man, I'm going to this, that, and the other. I let Ward take that. I'm like, go, man. Like, what do you want us to do? How should we do this? What do you think the tactics should be? You know, we had group discussions, group voting. And I'm not the most experienced with tactical training. My shotgun that I brought, I had gotten earlier last year. I hadn't even had a chance to shoot it yet. I brought it because I needed guns, right?
Fresh out the box.
Fresh out the box. And I could tell it was making Ward nervous. And I said, Ward, dude, like I don't need to have a gun. If you think that having a gun without the experience of shooting this gun is making you a little nervous, you run the back. Joel with his gun can run the front, and me and Chris can run the middle. You know, and it was just like very like I had a gun. I had my handgun, but I mean, in reality, that's not going to do much. But I had a gun on me. But like I was willing to leave my brand new gun in the cabin for the betterment of the team, you know? And that's the attitude we all had. Christian is one of the most selfless people I've ever met. And so like, it's almost like you're like, Christian, what do you really think, man? Just tell me, just say it, you know, like he's just so laid back. And so same with Joel and Ward. It's just, man, like I'm the most charismatic, outspoken person of all of us. And because I'm the leader, I'm like that. And I'm willing to humble myself and say, I don't need to do this. If it's going to make everybody else uncomfortable, everybody else just follows suit. And I loved it. I absolutely loved it.
All right. So tell me your Merkel Media website again, because you said www.merkelmedia, but there's no dot anything. It's just Merkel Media.
Yeah, it's Merkel.media.
Merkel.
Yeah,
www.merkel.media.
Yeah. So, I mean, you can put in Merkel.media or you can do www.merkel.media. Just no .com.
Gotcha. I got you.
So the media is the .com.
Gotcha. That's what I was trying to. I want to make sure, because when somebody listens to this and they want to go on, they don't get confused. All right, so let's get
I wanted merkelmedia.com, but that was taken. And I'm like, well,
where?
I don't freaking
You're like
know.
The only Merkel I know.
Right? Like, that's what I'm saying. Like, so maybe Angela Merkel, the president of Germany, took it. But
talk to your dad. He may have a secret title you don't know about.
So I saw that my options were like .co, .net, .org, and I was like .media. I was like .media. I am Merkel Media. Merkel.media. Perfect,
bro. You can't beat that, man.
Yeah.
All right. So I've been listening to your show for about a year and a half, and you've had a lot of guests on there, but some of my favorites are Dark Waters, of course, Jamal, and Kai with the Dogman story. So talk to me about like how you got them and like some of the best stories that you've heard from them. Like, because to me, like, those hit me hard. There's another story too. I don't know what the guy's name is, but he's the one where he was a little kid and he put his hand into the tree, but it wasn't a tree, and he felt the fur of this Sasquatch. It's in your intro.
Yeah.
Yeah, that one was crazy too. I don't know who that was, but let's start with like Dark Waters. I mean, how did you get a hold of Dark Waters? He's like the Barry White. He's like the Barry White of paranormal. He's got like a voice, you know.
So, all right, Dark Waters and I are friends, and the way we became friends is supernatural. It's bizarre, man. Just like there's been a lot of supernatural things that made my show what it is today, and Dark Waters is one of them. I was driving truck and I was at a delivery, and my phone rings. and it's a number I didn't recognize, so I let it go to voicemail. And then I'm still doing this delivery. My phone rings again right away, and same number. And I'm just like, what the heck? And so I answer the phone, and there's somebody talking on the other end, but it's not a person. It's somebody else's voicemail talking to me. Like, it was like I called somebody's phone and got their voicemail, only they called my phone. And when I answered, I could hear their voicemail. And so I'm like, what the heck? And then I get in the truck, and I was just like, that's so bizarre. I get a text message, and the text message says, or no, how does this go? It's been so long since I've told this story. I think I got a phone call again. I think that's what it was. And yeah, that's what it was. I got a phone call, and I answered because it was the same number. And then it was somebody on the other end, and it goes, "This is Dark Waters. Who's this?" And I'm like, "Yo, this is Tony Merkel." And he's like, "Why are you calling?" Oh, no, he didn't say, "Why are you calling?" What did he say? He's like, "Really?" And I was like, "Yeah, man." Like I said, your phone called my phone. I was like, "You called me." And he's like, "No, you called me." And I was like, "No, bro, like your phone called my phone. When I answered, I could hear your voicemail." And he's like, "All right, Ben, I'll call you back later. We'll talk about this." And so like later that night, he calls me and we talk about how he tells me that my phone called his phone, and his phone on my end called my phone. We didn't have each other's phone numbers at all. Like he didn't have my number. I didn't have his number. I knew of Dark Waters, and I was just talking to Wes over at Sasquatch Chronicles about Dark Waters like a week or two before, about how I wouldn't mind talking to him on the show. But that I didn't have his number. And so if you have this weird glitch, that what are the odds that even happens? And then it happens to two people in the same industry.
Yeah.
Like what are the odds of that, you know? And so like it was so bizarre how we got connected, because that night we wound up talking on the phone for a few hours about, Dogman and Nephilim, and we just got to know each other. We became good friends because we share a lot of the same opinions. And so we became friends, and it took probably, I'd say, another year or two until I actually had him on my show as an actual guest. Like I had him on for a roundtable discussion and things like that. But I had him on the show, I think it was like the week after Kyle or something like that. And we talked about, Dogman and stuff, but like he talked about these storms, I guess, went through Louisiana, and they cleared out a section of like river or something that was inaccessible at one point. And so these people in Louisiana this is recently apparently, these people were going down into this area. They'd never had a chance to go and explore before. And there were these reports of giants being back there, like people laying eyes on these giant humans standing like the size of trees, looking back at them, kind of thing. It was a very, very bizarre, interesting experience. So I think I called it Swamp Giants or something like that, the episode, something like that.
And then Jamal, this guy, man, he's got stories for days.
So Jamal,
yeah,
Jamal, I'm going to be honest with you. I get him and Jose confused all the time, and I can't remember their stories to identify which one his stories were. There's Jose, who I had on 3 times, and I think I had Jamal on 3 times.
Right, but Jamal, wasn't he part of a tribe?
But so was Jose.
So Jose as well.
Yeah, yeah. And so that's the problem, is that I can never remember their stories distinctly because they're both Native American,
right?
And they both were on the show several times with bizarre, crazy experiences.
What if they're the same people?
They're not. They're not. That if they were, that would be crazy. I'd be like, I was duped, but then everybody else would be duped because I wasn't the only one that got caught.
Right.
Let me see here. I'm trying to look it up on the website, his episodes, if I can. But yeah, I mean, Jamal, I remember Jamal and Jose both were very impressive to me. I just can't ever remember their stories distinctly.
Right, because they probably sound very similar and they probably intertwine in some sort of way.
Yeah.
The Kyle story is the one that recently, because I know I where his dog essentially gave up his life to save him. That was a crazy story. Can you just talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. So, I mean, with Kyle, he reached out and he sent us an email with his story. And I'm going to tell you straight up, it was the most well-written email we've ever gotten. Usually, if I get a long email, I either don't read it and Lindsay reads it for me and tells me what's in it, or I just skim through it because I'm not the quickest and the most smooth of readers. And if you write something that in Word, in Microsoft Word is 25 pages, bro, like I just need bullet points, you know?
I got you.
But his was long, but it was so well written. And as I'm reading it, I could feel I literally was getting closer and closer to my computer screen because I was like, what's going to happen next? What's going to happen next? How to have this guy on. And it's rare that people do this. Most people, when they email, they give the phone number as well. And usually we email them back. This guy, I would have called right away and he didn't leave his phone number. And I'm like, oh. So I emailed him back and I'm waiting weeks and I'm not hearing anything. I'm like, that's not going to happen. And I think I was like on Instagram Live and I was talking about this guy and this email. It was on my mind, man. It was like weeks later. And that night I get an email back from him. He's like, oh, sorry, I hardly ever check my email. I would love to come on and talk with you. So we scheduled it. And he comes on and he tells this story, man, that just, it was the most terrifying, jaw-dropping, heart-wrenching story we probably ever had on the show.
Yeah,
it's what took me to Kentucky, and I'm not driving to Kentucky for nothing, you know. But he was 15 years old and he was a coon hunter, and him and his grandfather went out one night with the two dogs, and his grandfather had to stay in the truck, bad health, and they had two-way radios, and they let the dogs loose. The dogs get on the scent, they take off. He's, you know, keeping up with the dogs and following the howls, and he's going through the woods. And all of a sudden, him and his grandfather at the same time heard coyotes, a pack of coyotes coming in. His grandfather gets on the radio and says, do you hear the coyotes? Yeah. Get in there before the coyotes get there, because if they get there before you, there's going to be a fight. And so he didn't get there in time, and there's a fight.
With the dogs and the coyotes, right?
Right.
And I don't know nothing about coyotes, but are they known to attack humans?
No, they're terrified of humans. Yeah, they're terrified of humans because, you know, most states they're considered nuisance animals, and you can kill them as much as you want. Right. So they got it. Most coyotes are. If you see a coyote just chilling and walking up to you, it's probably sick. You might want to get away. But
probably right.
Yeah. But anyways, so there's a fight between the coyotes and the two dogs, and there was Jake and Bo. Bo was a younger dog learning how to hunt. Jake was the veteran dog.
What type of dog? What type of dog?
They were some kind of hound, probably a coon hound. I really don't remember what kind of dog. I don't remember, but they were hounds. And Bo and they get in a fight, and then Jake locally was known, like that dog was known as the best hunting dog anybody had. Strong, big, good at hunting. When this fight happened, Bo, the younger dog, he could hear Bo run away, scared, just crying. So now Jake's by himself fighting off these dogs, and he does because they came in one at a time. It wasn't a pack at one time. They came in at one at a time. So when he fights off these dogs, he goes back to treeing the raccoon because he had treated raccoon and he's howling. And the coyotes come in again as a pack. And Kyle said he could hear them whooping up on his dog. And then he hears Bo come back in and the fight changed. He hears this other dog come in and the fight changes. The coyotes run off. He comes on the scene and his dog, Jake is howling and treeing the raccoon. He comes over and he pats him on the head. Good dog. And he hears what he thought was his other dog, Bo, on the other side of the tree, munching down on a coyote. So he walks around the tree, and he said when he walks around the tree, he lays eyes on what he at first thought was going to be his dog, and it wasn't his dog at all. He said what he saw was the biggest dog he ever saw in his life. He said this dog was so big that it was holding a coyote's rib cage in its mouth. He said this thing was huge. And when he came around the tree and it locked eyes with him, it saw him, it just like it like stopped, and then it stood up on its hind legs. And at that point, he takes off running, and this thing chases after him. Now, I don't know if it chased after him because it wanted to eat him, if it was an instinctual thing. I don't know. But his dog Jake came in and going after this thing, and this thing like just kind of like pushed him off and just kept going. And then his dog Jake comes in again, and at that point, this thing grabs Jake and just throws Jake through the trees. And he said he could hear Jake like just smacking, and he's like, "That's it, man. Like Bo's dead or Jake's dead." Like it sounded like Jake died. And I think he said he tripped over like a tree or something. He wound up on the ground, and this thing comes in and it's like on top of him. He said it was so close to him that he could see down the back of its throat, and he's gonna die. And at that moment, his dog Jake one last time came in and broadsided the side of this thing, and they go at it. And he gets up and he runs, and as he's running away, he hears this thing just tearing his dog to shreds. Just ripping it to pieces. And the
other dog is scared somewhere, right?
No, yeah, he's gone. He never came back. So when what he thought was the other dog coming back to fight was actually this dog man thing. And so he's running back to the truck, and I almost feel like he said he fired off a round when he hit a clearing, but maybe he didn't. But he's calling for his dog. "Come on, Jake, come on," knowing there's no way Jake's coming. Jake's dead. And he gets back to the truck and he tells his grandfather, "Go, go, go." And he's like, "What happened?" And he's like, "Just go." And on the way back, he tells his grandfather what happened. And his grandfather told him that he said, "Listen, you need to understand that. Granted, you have to understand that Kyle was 15 years old with his grandfather. And his grandfather told him, there are things in these woods that you're not going to understand, and you need to come to terms with that. And if you don't come to terms with that, you're not going to be a long time hunter." And so he's like, "What the heck are you talking about?" You know, they go back that night, and his grandfather said, "We'll come back out and look for Jake tomorrow." And he's like, "There's no point in coming back out to look for Jake. Jake's dead. Like, I heard him. He's dead." And he said, if Jake did what you say he did for you, you owe it to Jake to come out and look for him tomorrow. And so the next day they go out, look around all day long. They don't see Jake anywhere. So it's probably like lunchtime, and his grandfather takes his coat and lays it on the side of the road, and they go back to that house. And the reason why I did that is so that if Jake was out there, he could get the scent of the grandfather's coat, and they could come back that evening one more time and maybe find Jake or Bo. And they come back, they're looking, they can't find him anywhere, and they're getting ready to head out. And they're driving down this it's like an old logging road, like it's just, I was on the road in Kentucky. I was on the road.
You were on that one road, huh?
Yeah. We didn't make it back to the attack site because it got too late in the day because we hiked so far in. Kyle can't be out there at night. He will not be out there at night. So we had to be able to make it back.
So Tony, okay, so you hear this story about this attack, and then you have this idea that you're going to go out there to hunt the same thing that attacked this dog and this dude Kyle.
I'm mentally held back. So
you mentioned that earlier. I forgot that. Yeah. I just want to clarify.
Yeah. You're not the only one that thought I was crazy. Everybody did. But anyway, so this road, I can personally describe this road. It's a very remote. It's not two lanes. It's not a road. There's no pavement. It is like a logging road that comes to a dead end. And I've been to the dead end where his grandfather parked the truck that night, where Kyle got out to go into the woods. So they go out that night and they can't find him. They picked up the coat, and as they're driving down the road, getting ready to leave, his grandfather stops and said, "Look, there's a dog." And so he's like, "It's Bo. Get the leash, go out and get Bo." And so he goes out, and as he gets up to the dog, he realizes it's not Bo, it's Jake. Jake survived the attack. And he said that his ears were like shredded noodles. Like he was beat up. Like Jake didn't die, but Jake was going to die. You know, like it was that kind of injuries. Right. Well, they take him back to the house. His grandmother turns out to be like basically the local vet. Like she wasn't a vet, but everybody brought the animals over if they needed her to nurse them, kind of thing. She nurses him back to health, and Jake lived to be an old dog. Never was quite the same of a hunting dog, but he lived to be an old dog. And
Bo's gone
for 2 weeks. 2 weeks later, there was a local, like, I don't know, like lumber shop or something that Bo turned up on, and they saw on the collar the number, and they called the number, and they came and got Bo. So yeah, they got both dogs back. Now, there's more to Kentucky and Kyle, where his grandfather, when he was sleeping at his grandfather's house when he was a kid, the one night he fell asleep next to the window, and his grandfather picked him up and put him in the middle of the room. And the next morning he asked his grandfather, why did he move him the night before? And his grandfather said, so the slewfoot doesn't get you. And he's like, what the heck? Like a slewfoot? Why? You know, because like he thought a slewfoot was a bear, because there's an old bluegrass song talking about the slewfoot, and it was a bear. So he didn't understand why a bear would come in, reach in and grab him like his grandfather said. Well, it turns out years later, as he got older, he found out that the original lyrics to that bluegrass song wasn't a bear, it was an upright walking dog. So the slewfoot was an upright walking dog. And when you listen to the lyrics of the song, it makes a lot more sense, because they talk about the slewfoot jumping 90 or jumping 30 feet. No, it's jumping 30 feet, running 90 miles an hour. That's not a bear.
No.
But that's a supernatural upright walking dog for sure.
Right.
And so there's this history there. And you know, one day he was supposed to stay inside when it was snowing. He saw his grandfather out on the property tracking something, and he goes out anyways, and his grandfather was tracking slewfoot prints. And he's like, you know, let's get back in the house. You're not supposed to be out here. Right. But the Dogman slewfoot is ingrained in the culture down there. And to the point that they don't look at it as supernatural. Kyle looks at it as a physical creature. Now, I will tell you, and I think this is going to be in the documentary, when we left Kentucky, something showed up at Kyle's house. And it wasn't a Dogman. It was something else. And he didn't see it. His kids saw it, and they started talking about it in front of him later, like a couple days later.
Right.
And he told me, I don't talk to my kids about this stuff. I don't know how they even know what that is, and what like describing this creature kind of thing. And when he asked them about it, he's like, well, were you scared? And they're like, no. And he's like, why? And they said, because it was staring at you the whole time. There was something that showed up at their house and looking through the window at Kyle the whole time. And so I'm sure
with him.
Huh?
Had like some sort of maybe connection with him.
Yeah. I think that taking him, because Kyle had never gone back into those woods after that day. He never went back to that location until we went with him. So I feel like something followed. Like there was a dormant, like it was like the prodigal son returns.
Right. So welcome. The kid described it as maybe a dog creature, or they just didn't know what to.
It was not a dog, man. I can promise you, it was not a dog, man. And it was not a Bigfoot. It was something else.
Wow.
And
bro, Kentucky, man.
I'm telling you, bro. There is so much mystery. I am so excited to move to Tennessee. I cannot tell you how excited I am, because I am going to be in the Knoxville area, not far from the Daniel Boone. I could be at the location we were at before in 4 hours, where it's the last time it took me, I think it was like 10 or 11 hours to drive there. I could be there in 4 hours. I can be in the Daniel Boone in an hour and a half. Like,
what's the history of Tennessee? Like, as far as like paranormal, like I know, there's certain hotspots around the world for UFOs, blah, 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 but I don't really hear that much about Tennessee.
So I mean, I don't know a whole lot. I'll learn more, but there's the Smoky Mountains that have just a ton of mystery in it. All right. The Smoky Mountains are mysterious. Weird things happen in the Smoky Mountains, partly because I think there's a deep underground military base somewhere out there.
For sure.
I think that there's probably about 2 or 3 of them in Tennessee, from what I understand and kind of looked around online. There's the history of the Civil War, which has a lot of hauntings. And because Tennessee is right below Kentucky, and where I'm going to be at is in a pretty much direct up and down straight line from the Daniel Boone, things don't know state lines, and these mysteries go in between. I think same mysteries that happen in Kentucky happen in Tennessee and West Virginia as well. This area, and I'm just like I'm not gonna lie to you, bro. Like, I'm moving to Tennessee because I wanted to be more centralized for Merkel Media. I wanted to have cheaper living. I wanted to have a different type of culture around me, society wise. But I also wanted to be a lot closer to these crazy things happening. Right. Like it was a big lure for me to move to Tennessee, is that these things are actively happening there, and I want to be in it. Right. So I'm packing up my wife and my kids, and I'm moving them to Monsterland. You know, like right. My son, he's 4 years old, and he's like, the idea of Bigfoot is just like the idea of a bear to him. He's like, yeah, Bigfoot. You know, like he's not normal, and I almost feel bad. I hope he doesn't get teased too much, you know.
But you're moving to Tennessee for that reason, but you're also moving to Tennessee because we had a conversation about the changing of this world.
Yeah.
The mindset, like the overall mindset of the human race. Can you get into that? Because I know you don't only just do paranormal, you kind of also do conspiracy. This kind of runs along the line of conspiracy, but it's not really a conspiracy because we're all seeing it and being affected by this change of energy that's going on the last 15, 20 years.
Yeah, and especially the last 2 years has really picked up. So I'm a prepper. I'm an everything man, and I'm a self-described dystopian futurist. And I do view that differently than a conspiracy theorist. All I do, I'm less interested in JFK. I'm less interested in even 9/11, which I'm very interested in. I'm more interested in looking at the world around me today, in current times, looking at the culture, looking at society, looking at the direction of governments, and projecting where that's going. And my brain is a very pessimistic, dark place to be. I'm not very fun at parties. I don't have high expectations for society. I don't have a very bright look at the future. That's why I call myself a dystopian futurist. I look at the world around me and I don't see anything good coming our way. And I think I've been right pretty close up to this point. So I live in the Philadelphia area, and I look at where I'm at right now, culturally, society-wise. Do I want to be in a highly populated area when it all goes down? No. I live, the county I live in I live about 45 minutes from Center City, Philadelphia. And the county I live in has over 1 million people in it. The county, 45 minutes away from Philly. Right. That's too many people. And when this all goes down, I live in a neighborhood. It's an older neighborhood. There's a lot of houses though. And when this all goes down, can I expect that my neighbors around me are not going to want to pillage my stash of prepared food? Probably not. Because when people are when their backs are against the wall and they have kids to take care of, they're going to do things they never could have imagined themselves doing.
I agree.
And I can't even blame them. I mean, outside of shame on you for not preparing, right? But I can't blame them because I would do the same thing. If I find myself in this area and say we have an EMP attack and the whole system goes down and it's chaos and somehow somebody or a group of people come in my house and they take all my food out. At that point of desperation, my next move is to go steal food from somebody else to feed my family. That's just facts. I'm not going to sit there and watch my kids starve because I don't want to steal from somebody. And so I don't want to be in that kind of position. And so I wanted to go to an area that was more secluded. I don't want to be alone because when you're alone out in the boondocks or out in the wilderness, if you're alone, you're easy to conquer as well. Right. Especially with rogue military. So say we have a rogue military. and just your house out in the middle of the woods, that's easy.
You're an easy target, right?
And now your wife is subject to all kinds of abuse from, probably 20 guys that are rogue. You know what I mean? So you want a community. So I was looking for a place that politically is very gun friendly, and a place that is more rural but not alone. And that's why I'm heading to Tennessee, because it checks a lot of boxes for me. And like I said, there's tons of reasons why I'm going to Tennessee. But if we're talking about the dystopian mindset of what I think is coming, when I said to my wife, we're moving to another state, the first thing I said was, we're moving to a state that has no state income taxes, because I want to save some money since I'm self-employed. And there's this list of things, right? But when it got to places that I'm thinking, okay, so now does this place check the box of, can I have sustainable living here? Now we're checking boxes, or now we're tossing states out the window on certain ones. Like I think New Hampshire was one that has no state income taxes. Not happening. Washington State, not happening. Right? So it got down to Florida, not happening. One, because it's a melting pot. So you don't know what your neighbor's going to be like for 10, 15 years from now. And on top of it, I don't like alligators, and I don't like pythons or whatever those giant snakes they got down there.
Burmese pythons, yeah.
Yeah, not happening. Okay.
Yeah. I'm here.
I know you're. Yeah, and have fun during July and August, my friend. Okay. Yeah, it's just a beautiful, nice, not humid at all.
Dude,
place.
I hate this fucking place. I blame my wife. She doesn't want to leave. I want to leave so bad.
Tennessee, bro.
I'm telling you, I'm gonna plant the seed tonight.
Yes. So Florida's off, right? Texas, the gun culture very strong, but it's awfully large. There is a border issue there, and there's a high influx of people politically that are moving there that never would have thought about moving there. And I'm not guaranteed what that place is going to be like 10, 20 years from now. So also, they lack the physical, natural barriers that I was looking for as well, like the Smoky Mountains.
Correct.
And so then I was looking at, not in these orders, by the way, but I narrowed it down to 4 states. And then there was South Dakota, which checked a lot of boxes. Less than 1 million people statewide. So I would have space. Checked a lot of boxes, but the one box that it checked that we didn't want it to check, that was more of a problem for my wife than me, 50 inches of snow a year. Not happening. Like my wife was like, absolutely not. She gets, and I get like this too. You ever had that seasonal depression where it's just like, say you have a week of like rainy, like misty rain type days, you kind of get sad, right?
Yeah.
When the wintertime comes, her and I both kind of get like the seasonal depression. And so 50 inches of snow a year, dude, like wintertime, I'd have to be spending in Tennessee just because,
I know what you're saying. Yeah.
So we decided Tennessee checks all the boxes for the most part. During the summertime, it gets pretty humid on eastern Tennessee because of the Rocky, or I keep saying Rockies, the Smoky Mountains there. It gets kind of humid where we're at. But it gets humid in Pennsylvania too. It doesn't have a whole lot of snow, and it checks so many other boxes. We were able to get a house with a little bit of land. I'm going to be getting some, as soon as I get down there, the first thing I'm doing, probably within the first week or two, I'm getting chickens on the property. I'm going to get a chicken coop. I'm going to build a chicken coop eventually, but to start out, I'm just going to buy a prefabbed one. I'm going to get probably about 5 to 6 chickens. Should be plenty for my family. I'm going to look to grow that population of chickens over time, because a great way to make sure you're not stolen from is to have enough food to supply to other people.
Correct. So are you going to gate your area so that predators don't come in? And
yeah, so I have a lot of different ideas. Hang on a second. My wife just texted me something. I just got to make sure she's okay.
We're almost done, brother. We're almost
okay.
Done. We'll wrap this up soon.
Oh no, she just asked me, do I want anything from the Ice House restaurant place? I don't want anything. Anyways, so what was I saying? Oh yeah, the chicken. So I'm gonna have obviously fenced in. So the chicken run it's fenced in. It's gonna have a roof over it, all that stuff. Initially it's not gonna be like this, I don't think. But when I build it, I'm going to have the chicken wire come down to the ground for the fencing on the wall, but then I'm going to run it under the ground, probably about 15 to 20 inches out. And then I'm going to pile dirt on top of that. So when predators come and they try digging in at the fence, they're just going to be met with more fence that they're standing on top of.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? So
smart, yeah.
So
giving them the outlet into your coop.
Right. And I'm also going to put up an electric fence around the edge as well. So I'm going to do what I can to prevent it. But actually, what I'm going to do with that nobody else is doing is I'm going to put electric fence around the edge and the bottom there so that, foxes and things like that. But I'm also going to put one on top too, because I'm aware that there's Bigfoot in the area, unlike other people.
I was just going to ask you that. What if you get a Bigfoot, man? What do you do with that?
I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, if Bigfoot wants it, he's going to be like, he's going to take it away. He's going to get his chicken. But I'm going to get more chickens. And then I'm also once I get the initial chicken coop set up and I have my starter chickens, I'm going to start building my greenhouse, and I'm going to start growing food year round. And I want to grow food, and I want to grow a lot of food, and I want to have so much food that I possibly can't consume it, and people know that they can come over and get some bell peppers and tomatoes off me at any time. And I'm not going to charge them for it. It's surplus, Part
of the community, right?
Yes, I want to take care. I've always been like this. I like taking care of people. I like helping people. That's why I'm doing Merkel Media in Knoxville in a way where it's going to be so attractive for other people. They want to be a part of it because I want you to be a part of it. I want to give. I want to help. I want you to succeed, because if I'm friends with you and you succeed to the point where you get bigger than me, now you can pull me along when I pulled you along. A rising tide raises all ships, and that's a philosophy I ride with. So we're gonna do the greenhouse, because I can start growing things in that house while I'm building the greenhouse. And I'm also going to look into setting up, and I don't know how exactly I'm going to do it yet, but I know it's obviously possible, a water harvesting system. So when it rains, the rainwater isn't being wasted. I'm going to collect that into, 50 gallon drums, maybe even totes. I can use the water system to feed the chickens, to water the plants in the greenhouse, for emergency water supplies, all that stuff. And this is stuff that I don't know how to do per se. I'm going to learn how to do. I've never had chickens. I've never built a greenhouse. I've never built anything. I've never collected water. I have a water barrel outside my house. I never hooked up to my water spout to collect water. It just sits there, it looks good. But I've never done these kind of things. But you know what? At some point in everybody's life, they haven't either, and they figured it out. And my motivation is to survive and prepare and take care of my family and those in my life, the community. And so that's my motivation. And it's such a deep-seated desire in me, because obviously I want to take care of my family, and I'm naturally the kind of person I want to take care of other people, that I'm going to do this. Just like I told people, me and my dad got done filming or recording for Hammerley Legends 2 years ago. When the COVID stuff started happening, we were probably like in April, probably at least no later than April. And him and I are talking. I got on a FaceTime phone call with my dad, my mom, my sister, my brother, and we're all talking. I told them all, I said, listen, this is going to get crazy. And if it gets to this level of crazy, I'm out. I'm leaving. And I highly suggest you guys figure it out now to leave as well. It's not going to be convenient, but I'm out. And I told them that almost 2 years ago. And now I'm out. And I told them that 2 years ago. And my dad, like a month ago, when I told him, like, we have the house getting ready to be scheduled to be put on the market and all that stuff, he came down to recording. He's like, you weren't kidding. You really are leaving, aren't you? And I was like, I am leaving. I am leaving for real. Okay, I'm out. So and it's just because I believe in this. And, people can say, oh, he's crazy and stuff. Right. Listen, you're crazy. How's that sound? Because me preparing for an emergency is not crazy. Now, if you think that's crazy, that's you saying there's never been a time in human history where an emergency happened where people wish they would have stocked up on food. Like, you don't think that can happen today? We just saw Russia go into Ukraine. 10 years ago, we've been like, oh, the odds of that happening. We're civilized now. Yeah. 10 years ago, there's no way the world would think that on a collective level, we would see our governments working together against the people. But we see that. And so ain't nothing off the table.
Right.
I'm not underneath this idea of an illusion that through my preparation, I'm safe. At the end of the day, the government can come in and take everything away from me, and I'm left with nothing. Period. That's it. I mean, there's things called ESG scores. It is in America, it's in the United States, and it's a social credit score being run through the banks. If you aren't a good boy and you don't meet certain criteria, you have a lower ESG score. If your ESG score is too low, you can't get certain loans, mortgages, and that's for businesses. And if you as an individual shop at a business with a low ESG score, your ESG score goes down. It gets lower. If your ESG score gets too low, you might start seeing credit card companies cutting you off. You might see your own bank that you have your money in say, we're not doing business with you anymore. That's where we're going. We've seen this happen in Canada recently. We saw it happen on an individual level 3-4 years ago with Alex Jones. Like banks stopped doing business with Alex Jones. And so
they're doing it in other countries too.
Yeah. So like we've seen this happen on certain levels. And I'm telling people right now, if you don't know about the ESG scores, you need to go look into it. It's very real. I can tell you right now, Wells Fargo is participating in ESG scores. I have my money in Wells Fargo. And as soon as I get to Tennessee, I'm putting it in a local credit union where I'm a member and I have a say of what they do. Because right now, if you just go on DuckDuckGo, go ahead, do Google if you prefer that, but I do DuckDuckGo. You go on DuckDuckGo and you just type in Wells Fargo in the search engine, Wells Fargo ESG. Within the first 1 or 2 links, you'll see a link, and the URL is wellsfargo.com. You click on that, and it's them talking about how they're participating in ESG. This is a very real thing.
What does it stand for, ESG? Do you know?
Environmental social governance. So if you're a business, if you're a business and you hire people who live 2 hours away from where you're at, and they commute 2 hours because the pay's through the roof. And I use that example because I used to deliver to a place in Westchester, Pennsylvania that hired, they dealt with chemicals. And so their forklift operators that loaded the trucks were making just on straight time, $40 an hour. Wow. And anything over 8 hours a day was time and a half. Holidays was, or no, anything after 8 hours a day was double time. Holidays was triple time. Weekends, triple time. And so like these dudes make boatloads of money loading these trucks because it's high-end, valuable chemicals, and you pay people enough, they care enough. So there are guys who live in Cape May, New Jersey, who drive 2 hours to get to work. They have apartments in Westchester they live at during the week, and then they go home on weekends to their family. That company is going to have a very low ESG score because they're harming the environment by having their employees commute 2 hours to get to work. If a certain company does not toe the line on a social level, on some kind of social justice level,
right,
they're going to have a lowest ESG score. And that's where this is it. That's where the ESG comes in as environmental, social, and governance. I forget how the breakdown is with governance, but you get the idea where this is at. It's very social justice warrior-ish. Yeah. And so like that's implemented now through the World Economic Forum in this country right now. And so it's not being done through the government. It's being done through the banks. And that's how the government gets around it. They're allowing the banks to implement the social credit system so the government doesn't have to. So the banks are controlling the money, and through the ESG scores, because they're all getting on board with this, they're going to control who gets the money. And so I do project, and I hope I'm wrong with this, but because I'm a dystopian futurist, I do project as a full-time podcaster who retrieves his money through online transactions, I think in the next 10 years, probably 8 years, I will be cut off from earning a living. I believe that. Wow. I hope I'm wrong.
Yeah, I hope you're wrong too.
Unless we stop this through education and understanding, and that's why I'm bringing it up and even talking about it, because unless we stop this, we are all screwed. Period. And so we saw it happen in Canada. They just cut off certain citizens from their bank accounts. Canada was running underneath what? The slogan of Build Back Better. Who did that as well? Joe Biden. That was his campaign slogan. Leaders all over the world 2 years ago, were running underneath this campaign. You were seeing it everywhere. Build Back Better, and it was Joe Biden's slogan for his campaign. Like, it was a calling card to the World Economic Forum. It was through the World Economic Forum that came to be through the Great Reset. And ESG is part of this. So when we see that Canada, who's part of the World Economic Forum, Trudeau is, and he was using the slogan "Build Back Better," and he cuts off people from the banks, though it's not going to be done the same way in this country. We already have a system in place to cut people off from their money through the ESG score social credit system, which is it mirrors a lot of what China does with their open social credit system.
Yeah.
So. In my dystopian, I told you I'm not fun at parties. Like, a very bleak future.
You'd be sitting right next to me. We'd be having drinks, talking it up, man, while everybody does their own thing, man.
Right.
While everybody points at us like, look at those crazy dudes.
Listen, I'm just telling people, anybody listening right now, if you think I'm crazy, or if you believe me, even if you believe me, just go look it up. It's not hard. Just I know you're scared. What I just said, I know it scares you. And I know that there are some people who have the inclination when they're scared of something like that, they tend to run away from it and not look at it, because if they don't look at it subconsciously, it doesn't exist. You got to run from that feeling and run into the information. You need to be prepared and educate yourself, because ESG is happening. It is here. It's been here for about 1.5 to 2 years. I talked about ESG on my radio show in the beginning of last year.
Right.
It's here. It's operating. And if you don't understand it now, you will be befuddled, lost, and totally gone, not understanding a thing of what's happening to you a couple of years from now. When everything goes crap and you're like, how is this even possible? It's possible because of ESG. And if you don't know about it now, you're going to be totally confused 2 years from now. So I talk about it when I can, so that I can prepare people and maybe get people on board with this. Because if enough of us, all right, so what do we do, Tony? Here's what you do. You find out if your bank is involved in ESG scores. BlackRock. If your money is going to ESG, is going to a bank with ESG scores, take your money out and put it in a local bank, a local credit union, something like that. And when you take your money out of Wells Fargo, like I will be in about 2 months, when you take your money out of Wells Fargo, you don't just take your money out and close it. You ask to speak to a manager, or if you want to be anonymous, you write a letter and you tell them exactly why you took your money from them. They need to know why you don't have your money in their institution anymore. And if enough of us take our money from the banks participating in ESG scores and tell them why we're doing it, at the end of the day, I believe that is the only way we can stop this, because money talks. If we take our money from them and say, we're not giving you our money because you're participating in this social credit system that's going to kill this entire world and country, maybe we can stop this. But other than that, dude, we're living in a time where world governance is conspiring against the population all over. I don't know how we stop this unless we all get on the same page as the population. There's more of us than them.
Right.
But until we all get on the same page to do something about this, it's going to be scattered brained messes everywhere. We're going to have pockets of people thinking this over here, pockets over there. And when we're not organized and together, we're dead.
Right.
And that's where we're at right now.
Take off, yeah. The information doesn't flow, and you got people that are scared, but most importantly, you got people that don't care. That's the bad part. What are your thoughts on crypto?
Man, I like it. I like crypto. I don't know a ton about it. My brother's into it, and I have I bought like $1,000 worth of Bitcoin once, like a year or two ago, and it's like at 1,600 now. I thought about investing more right now because with what's going on with Russia and Ukraine, if they cut Russia off from the SWIFT system, which is the ability to have international wiring transactions with monetary things. So basically, if they cut them off, Russia can no longer do any kind of wiring of money outside of their country. Right. If that happens, you're backing them into a corner, right? So I think if that happens, what could happen as a result is that probably China as well, but definitely Russia would take all their money, dump it into Bitcoin, because then they can transact that way.
Right.
And so
they have no choice. That's the
right.
They have no choice.
So I have been kicking around the idea because it's a long shot, far-fetched kind of scenario, but I was like, man, if Russia puts all their money in Bitcoin, that thing is going to go up, up. Like, you know, my $1,000 will become probably like $30,000 overnight, you know? But I don't know, man. I don't know a ton about crypto. I don't know how it all works. But I do think that there's something to it. I think that it's going to become much more relevant in the future the more we get into a virtual reality living state of existence, with Meta, with the metaverse that Zuckerberg is trying to build.
That alien dude.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Dude, he's a clone. So I think in the future, people are going to choose to live in a metaverse type environment than this reality. And I think they're going to make life so hellish for us that we're going to run to it. And there is going to be a whole new economy in it, opportunity to make money in it. There's going to be, I personally feel, forget everything I just said for the last 15, 20, 30 minutes of how the world's ending. Say we can just kind of carry on as usual from here on out. I mean, it's just, we can live, right? Be great. I would love it. Please, God. Please, it'd be great. You know, I'm finally doing something in my life. Don't take it away.
Hook us up, man.
So, I think that one of my things I would do is I would set up shop in the metaverse. I would have a storefront so your avatar could come into my store and purchase my gear, and you could clothe your avatar in the Confessionals hoodie, and I'd probably have the Confessional sneakers and all of it, you know, I would, which is, they're called NFTs, you know? So I would personally strongly invest in that area, because I do think that's where we're going. In fact, I'm talking to some people right now where I'm like, I don't know what crypto is. I don't know what NFTs are. I don't barely understand metaverse, but I know it's important. So how can we make some money with it? You know what I mean? So like, I think in the future, if things just stay afloat, you might see me open up a clothing line in the metaverse where you can buy some sick apparel for your avatar, because you maybe not you, because you're of an older generation, maybe not me because I'm an older generation, but my kids generation, right, they're going to be living in the metaverse, and they're going to want the sickest shoes for their avatar, because they spend more time in the metaverse than they do in this reality where they consume food. They'll basically come out of the metaverse, eat, go back in, take a dump, and go right back in. Most of them will probably dump while they're on the metaverse, you know? Right. So like, because like Mark says that he envisions this seamless integration where eventually, I don't believe you're going to be putting on anything. I think it's going to be in your brain. But you say you put on these glasses and you see the metaverse with these glasses, but it integrates with this reality. So I see my computer screen here, but I also see this digital screen above my computer that's not physically there, but I see it in the metaverse. And he projects that it's going to increase workflow, and people will be working from home, and they'll be more productive because they can do things in the metaverse and in this reality at the same time. This is what he envisions, and it's kind of cool. But with that said, there's a lot of cultural transitions that are going to come, and that's not necessarily going to be good. There's going to be, well, you know, listen, things change, man. I mean, my grandparents probably would have been horrified to see me spending so much time in front of the computer. Oh my gosh, all you do is spend time in front. It's my job. It's what I do for a living, you know? And so I don't think it's that big of a deal, right? I think maybe the transition mindset will change as well with that stuff for the future generations. Like, you know, when I was a kid, don't sit so close to the TV. It'll destroy your eyes. Right. Now, you know, we're all as adults are like this with our phones, just looking at it, you know, and our kids are on iPads, you know, and it's just like, people will be like, you know, you shouldn't let your kid be on the iPad so much. It's like, why? Like, his future is on that thing. Like my children, they're not going to have the same opportunity as me economically for jobs. They're not. And most jobs are going to more and more transition to technology. So I'm not saying my kids should never go outside and play. What I'm saying is like this old school idea of an hour a day on PS2 or PS1, whatever it was, an hour a day on your iPad. It's not realistic. These kids need to be extremely proficient with the technology that's in their hands for their future. And so if you run off this old school technology or this old school philosophy of you're only going to get an hour a day or an hour a week. I mean, that was common when I was growing up.
Yeah.
Like you're only holding back the development of your child's future in this world by doing that, I believe personally. And I got a 4-year-old and I got a 1-year-old. And that's just how I operate. I don't let them, like I discipline them. They're not on the iPad all the time, but I'm not holding them back from it either because they need to be proficient in this kind of stuff. And they don't need it. And it's not like, well, they don't need to be proficient now. No, they don't. But I'm not going to hold back the inevitable as well, you know? And I think if we use it right and we teach them along the way of the goods and bads of the technology, you know, like no parent's perfect. Like you, Chris, I can guarantee you really messed up sometimes being a parent and you really hit home runs too. Yeah. Like, and the same thing here. So like, and everybody who wants to judge me for my philosophy on this stuff, you suck at at being a parent too. Just maybe not the way you think I suck, but you suck too. And so like, maybe you yell at your kid a little bit more than I do. Maybe you should calm down with that. Right. And so like, maybe you should look at your child more instead of the TV when you come home from a long day of work. Yeah, you're tired and stuff, but maybe you should pay attention to your kid a little bit more. And they won't, you know, have the issue they have or whatever. So like we all suck at being parents at some point. So it's easy to throw stones at each other, but that's just my philosophy. I don't think that I think it's inevitable that their future is in the technology. So I'm going to let them have a little bit more of it than I was allowed to have growing up.
All right, man. So let's end it on a fun note because we've got all serious, futurist, Dogman, all this stuff. Last question I have for you, bro. Between you and your wife, who is the bigger fan of the paranormal?
Oh, me.
Yeah, you trump her, huh?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, she knows more.
Right.
She knows more. She does all the reading. She writes the blogs, all that stuff. But as a fan, like of just organic, pure interest, yeah, I blow her out of the water. She's interested, and she's always been interested in stuff, but just not like me.
Did she come into the relationship with experiences of her own, or? Yeah,
she had. We never talked about it because we never like this stuff was not part of our marriage or life until I started the podcast. Maybe a year or two before that when I was dabbling with the Facebook group stuff. But we never talked about this stuff. It just really wasn't a conversation that we talked about until I started doing it more. But yeah, she had stuff when she was a little girl. She saw a hat man, red eyes looking at her through a hole in the ceiling, different things. Yeah. If anybody wants to hear her stories, episode 3, she was on for all her stories.
Okay. Yeah. Cause I got in I think episode, maybe you're at 400 and something now.
Yeah.
Yeah. I got in maybe 200 or something. So I haven't been able to go back, but I'll check that episode out, man. Tony, you're the man, dude. You're a gentleman, intelligent. I wish you nothing but the best. If you need anything from me, let me know. The show was awesome. Send me links to wherever you want people to go to so I can put it in the description once I release this. But I appreciate you having me on your show initially. It was very cathartic for me. I had done interviews with someone before, but it wasn't live or it wasn't recorded. It was more I told this individual story. They typed up a story and put it online. What I did with you kind of, helped me out through certain things. So I appreciate you for doing that. And for doing this interview. Thank Lindsay and your kids for letting me borrow you for 3 hours.
Yeah, man. Good
and
job.
I hope we get to talk again. Okay. Just keep me updated on all your exploits. Okay.
Will do, man. Will do.
All right, man. Stay safe. Okay.
Will do, brother.
Stay sane as you want to say. All right, brother. Peace.
Later.